What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal.
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go!
Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You're watching 40 Days, 40 Nights, where me, your boy, EJ Stewart, does 2 live streams per day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. First one, 8 a.m., second one, 6 p.m., and this one is a doozy and a special one coming at you today because coming up at 8:30, my guy, Andrew Perloff, joins 40 Days and 40 Nights. Of course, Andrew Perloff, host of Maggie and Perloff, a show that was on, obviously, Infinity Sports Network. That is where I used to work, and we all worked as a tandem. Andrew Perloff, Mackie Gray, Andrew Bogish, Manny Rodriguez, and your boy. So we've had Manny, we've had Maggie, we now have Perloff. We got to get Bogish now. He's the last Infinity Stone to come on 40 Days and 40 Nights. I do know that based on my conversations with him in the group chat, he seems to be very much enjoying not waking up super early. So I don't know if he's going to be willing to do a morning version of 40 Days, 40 Nights. That might have to be an evening conversation. But really excited to have Perloff on today. This is going to be a lot of fun because he was at the Super Bowl for Super Bowl week. So he saw the festivities. He saw all the conversations. He made some incredible content for Athlon, and he's been on the ground pounding the pavement. He was at the Senior Bowl the week prior, so he's been doing his thing. So I'm excited to talk to Perloff, ask him what he thought about the Super Bowl, ask him what he thinks about the offseason, and we're gonna get into NBA stuff as well. He may brag a little bit about his Sixers actually looking like they have a pulse this season as opposed to the disgrace that they were last year. And he will want to rib my Knicks. I don't know why. They're playing some damn good basketball, so I'm sure that'll be a lot of fun for you guys. So we're gonna have a great time. Andrew Perloff joining me at 8:30 Eastern time. That is going to be a doozy. I cannot wait. We got other stuff to get to in the show, man. We're going to talk some college basketball. A big one out at the Fog where you had number 9 Kansas taking down undefeated Arizona. That alone, obviously, is a big deal and a big story in itself. But what happened leading up to the game and what the deal is with Darren Peterson kind of became even the bigger story afterwards. So we'll get into all of that later. Darren Peterson did not play in that game, even though Kansas was able to beat undefeated number 1 Arizona. We'll also talk some more college basketball because Charles Bediako, the kind of polarizing center for Alabama, who played previously in the G League, was at Alabama, 2 years ago in 2023. Decided to try to come back to college basketball and play college basketball. This has been the rave that we saw. We seen it with James Najee. Obviously, he played overseas and played in the summer league, and then he was able to come back and play for Baylor. Now you have Bediako, a guy who actually played in the G League, who was trying to get eligibility to play, and he actually was able to play in games. There was an injunction that was put on while he was suing the NCAA to be allowed to be eligible that allowed him to play. Now, a judge has ruled. He is now ruled ineligible. Now, I don't know if there's going to be an appeals process that makes this thing prolonged even further, but we've seen college athletes pushing the envelope of being former professional basketball players trying to come back to play college basketball, and some guys have been able to get away with it. James Najee, I think, is going to get away with it, seems like, but Bediako did not. So it's just going to be a turning point in this fight. Speaking of fight night in the NBA. 4 guys ejected last night when the Hornets and the Pistons game turned into fisticuffs. This was a doozy. You can go see the video. Go watch the video. I got plenty of photos because I'm not trying to get copyright struck by the NBA. But I got plenty of photos to show you guys. But, man, this was not your typical, guys just mulling around, holding back, guys pushing. No, these were swings. These were, scuffles, getting close to the crowd. This was a dangerous situation in Charlotte, so we'll break that down as well. So a lot to do. We'll get some WB stuff towards the end of the show. And finally, J. Cole also had his AMA. By the way, I'm still trying to do my AMA. I think I'm going to try to do it for Wednesday night, and maybe I'll make it the last 4 Wednesdays I'll do an AMA. But if you want to ask me any questions, I posted on my Instagram, Action EJ. You can ask any question you want. It could be sports. It could be personal, but nothing crazy. Y'all know the deal, right? Don't do anything weird. But yeah, I want to do AMA. I want to be able to like have you guys just take the floor and ask questions about my life, my career, just what I think about anything, what you think about the show. I want to put that all out there, and I think Wednesday is going to be the night. I've gotten a nice group of questions so far. I want to see if I can get a couple more. So if you go to my Instagram story, Action EJ, you'll actually see my latest AMA request, so you can post questions in there if you so like. So we'll get to that. We'll get to speaking of J. Cole, like I said, he did his own AMA, and he answered some questions about what the future holds for him, because we've been asking now that he's dropped his album that was considered what he said was intended to be his last album. What comes next? Is J. Cole done with music? Is he retired? What comes next? He actually answered some of those questions, so we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. That will kind of wrap a bow on this J. Cole era of the 40 Days, 40 Nights, where we talked so much about the fall off. Didn't know when I launched the show that the fall off was coming. I knew I wanted to talk hip hop. I knew I wanted to talk music, because that's an aspect of my life and my, my interests. But didn't know it'd take this much time of the show, and I didn't know J. Cole would be at the center of it for so long of it. But that's kind of the final thing on that. Shout out to my guy Ray Jarvis from the Rap Roundtable. I don't know why I wrote Hip Hop Roundtable in all my notes in lower thirds, but Ray is the man. He came on also kind of complete the cycle of us, first previewing the album and talking about the album. He did a phenomenal job. You can catch that on wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, also on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we are streaming live right now on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, shout out, give us a thumbs up, say what's up in the comments. We greatly appreciate you. Live on YouTube. New Generation Media is where you'll find us on YouTube. We're live on X. EJ_Stewart is where you'll find me on X. And we are live on Instagram, Action EJ. Okay, let's get to it, man. 40 Days, 40 Nights, rocking with you here. This is going to be a fun one. Andrew Perloff comes up at 8:30. I want to discuss first, though, this Kansas game. The fog was electric last night. This season, I don't know what makes it any different than any other season. This season, I've had the most FOMO of wanting to go to a sporting arena than I can remember in a while. There have been several Kansas games. I probably watched Kansas the most this year. I think it's because the nature of me doing 40 Days and 40 Nights, and it usually ends like around 8 or so. And then I'm like, all right, what's on TV? What sports can I watch? And if it's not the Knicks, I'm going to look for college basketball. And Kansas has kind of dominated for me that 9 p.m. Eastern slot. So it's been a perfect kind of way to end my nights is to watch Kansas basketball. And of course, Darren Peterson. But I've watched so many games he didn't play, which is what we'll get to in a second. So I've watched a ton of Kansas basketball, but the fog this year has been electric. I saw them win a game they should have lost at TCU. I saw them just terrorize BYU, and I watched this Arizona game. And I've probably watched some other games ancillary throughout the season, but I probably watched, besides, I might have watched more than the Zags this year. I know I'm a Gonzaga fan. Gonzaga plays super late, so I haven't been able to catch some of those games. But I've watched a ton of Kansas this year. And the fog, and I'm talking about Fog Allen Fieldhouse for those who don't know what the fog means. Allen Fieldhouse has been electric. And there's been this conversation about, college basketball regular season isn't the same. You could have fooled me from watching these games at Allen Fieldhouse, because that crowd was awesome last night. They've been awesome all season. And I think they've really been catapulting Kansas to some wins that they quite frankly should not have gotten. And after the game last night, you had Bill Self say, the fog won this game tonight. Because you could see in the second half, as they beat Arizona in a awesome game, close game, you could see late in that game, Arizona's offense just tensed up. They're a team that typically runs really precise sets, and they get good looks consistently. Helps when you got a 7'3" center who can just drop the ball in the basket kind of at will. But they also got great guards. Burry seemed to be the only guy that kind of rose to the occasion. I was surprised Jaden Bradley was so bad last night. Cole Pete seemed to be dealing with cramping in his quad at one point in time, so he wasn't as effective. But Kansas wins this game. It was an absolute barn burner, and one of the games that I think we all don't like conference realignment, right? I think we all think it's kind of like not great for the sport. But this is the kind of game where you say, oh, this isn't too bad. I know we just like that other conference realignment. But getting Kansas and Arizona, number 1 overall seed, number 1 in the conference, obviously, at Fog Allen Fieldhouse on a Monday night where Bill Self is undefeated on Big Monday at Allen Fieldhouse, which is a stat that my brother sent me yesterday that I could not believe. That's insane. Big Monday, of course, Big 12 deal with the NCAA, with the Big 12 with ESPN, where they always put games on Monday nights, big games, and Kansas plays a lot of those games. And I don't know what his record is, but in his entire time there, he's never lost on a big Monday at Kansas. It's incredible. So they win this game. I thought that this was a game, and talking about just the game, awesome performance by Flory Badunga, who met the challenge. He's up against a guy who, in Krivas, who's about 6 inches taller than him. But Badunga guy was dominant around the basket. He was awesome around the paint. Something playing in my ear. I don't know what that was. But no, he was awesome around the paint. He was dominant. He was in many ways the energy of that team. He really brought that energy. I thought that this is a game that this was going to be about hustle, and it was going to be about simply who wanted it more for Kansas. If Arizona is so talented, they could beat teams kind of on their C game. If Kansas was going to win this game, they were going to have to come out pretty much guns blazing, playing at a fast pace, and they were able to do that. They controlled the pace of the game. They then started to control the physicality of the game in the second half. Arizona went towards the end of the game like 7 minutes with only 1 field goal. This was an impressive performance, and for those who, like myself, I've been a little skeptical whether or not Kansas was a true title contender. I wasn't sure if they had enough offense to consistently score to be a title contender. I know it's at Allen Fieldhouse, and they will not be playing any games in the tournament at Allen Fieldhouse, but you start to rack up these wins, these culture wins, I feel like I call them. Like these wins where it's like, man, like to get this one, you were going to have to really dig deep. You were going to have to get some big stops. You were going to have to find a way to score late in games and execute, and they did. This is kind of making me turn and make me wonder, maybe I'm underestimating what Kansas could do potentially in March, because Arizona was due for a loss. I don't take this loss and look at it and say, oh, this is a referendum on Arizona. I think people kind of want to doubt Arizona because they've been kind of a postseason choker for a while now. But even during this particular era with what's the name, Tommy Lloyd, who's former Gonzaga assistant. I love Tommy Lloyd, but they've had a lot of high seeds and have flopped in the postseason and flopped in March Madness. So I think people want to look at them and say, oh, see, this is why Arizona is not all that good. I think that would be kind of foolish to take their first loss of the season at Allen Fieldhouse on a Monday night against a highly motivated team. I think this is one you can kind of maybe chalk away and say, okay, I'm not going to go crazy over this one. This, I think, was more about Kansas showing, hey, man, like they got good guard play still, even though they didn't have Darren Peterson, who we'll get to in a second. They have good guard play. They have bigs who play above their size, and they just play hard. And if they play with that kind of effort, like they had last night, they absolutely can make a Final Four. They just need to be able to consistently execute offensively like they did last night if they want to do that. But it was a really impressive game, I thought, from Kansas. It was crazy that Melvin Consul, who I when I saw the box score, I couldn't believe it was 6 for 25. It was a funny comment after the game where he was also at the box score and someone like mentioned he was 6 for 25. He's like, what? I was 6 for 25? That's crazy. And then but another guy was like, yeah, maybe you should pass the ball more, bro. But to be honest, I felt like he controlled the pace of the game so well. I didn't feel like he was 6 for 25. It still felt like he was making an impact. And so much so I'm not surprised that even he didn't know he shot that poorly. But he still was getting guys involved. He still was running the team. He had 6 assists on the night. He played 40 minutes. I mean, he played basically wire to wire. Not basically, he did play wire to wire in this game. Kansas is not that deep. They're only going to play about 6 guys. But those 6 guys, they brought it. They brought it, and it was again an impressive game. Again, I'm not so much going to kill Arizona. They got cold a little bit. I will say again, I'm falling in love with Burries as an NBA prospect. I mean, this kid is silky smooth. I thought Fran Fraschilla had a really good comparison comparing him to Devin Booker I know it's maybe a little what's the word, on the nose a little bit. You got a guy who plays in the state of Arizona who's light skinned, who can shoot the rock and play 1 and 2. It's a little on the nose, but I get it though. Like he has mid-range game. He can shoot from 3. He's good finishing at the rim. His offensive game is complete. There's nothing he can't really do offensively. If you want to argue maybe he's not a natural 1, which is kind of maybe the discussion we had with Devin Booker, maybe that's what you could talk about. But the guy's a bucket. And again, I thought an Arizona team, I don't think they looked frazzled, because I just thought they were having a tough time in that environment, trying to find points, like scoring at Allen Fieldhouse, and with that crowd going insane and the way Kansas was playing defense down the stretch, they just had a tough time. Sometimes they're just gonna lose games like that. I don't think they were frazzled per se, but he seemed to be the only guy that was not having trouble. Like, he seemed the only guy that understood the assignment, and the fact that he's a freshman and he was able to carry Kansas into that kind of game, remarkable. So they lose this one, but Burry's stock continues to go up in the NBA draft. A stock who didn't go up, but maybe it won't ever move up, because right now he's the one is Darren Peterson. We got to get to this aspect of this, because this has become the story within the story of this game. So this is a marquee game, and Darren Peterson has been in and out of the lineup for various different reasons all throughout the year. Mainly it's been like lower leg stuff that he's dealt with, hamstring pulls and things like that. And there's been a lot of conversation about he's not going to push it. He only wants to play when he's 100% healthy, and that's his prerogative. That's 100% his right, and he's going to be a top 3 pick at least in the NBA. So he probably definitely shouldn't be foolish in terms of going out there and playing hurt. But now this is a guy who's missed a lot of games, and then he's played in games, but then had minutes limits or didn't finish games. Like, he's had a lot of weird stuff going on. During this game, an eagle-eyed member of, I assume this was Arizona's crew, because Barstool Arizona was the Twitter account that put this out. I'm gonna post this tweet, and it elicited a response from Kansas, their associate AD. Here's what it was. Let me grab it real quick. Actually, I thought I had it, but I had it somewhere else. It's on my desktop here. But he misses this game. They call it flu-like symptoms. So I'm kind of groaning already. I'm like, what? Flu? Okay. Like, he's missed a lot of games. This is the biggest game of the season. It's Fog Allen on a Monday night. The number 1 team's in the house, and he's sick, and he can't go. Like, okay. You got to take it for what it is, I guess. But then it gets interesting, because then you see this tweet. And the original one came from Barstool, Arizona. Let me see if I can enlarge this so you can see this a little better. So this is a person that's texting. If you watch the video, you can see them texting. And shout out to this person that tried that transcribed this joint. Oh, it went away. Shout out to the person that transcribed it, because I had trouble trying to figure out what the hell this thing said. I was able to catch some things, but not as much as he did. So, or they did, whoever was this. So they sent this to Barstool Arizona rather. It's someone texting. So he's sick, and he didn't tell anyone in practice. And Bill Self said, "Don't half-ass if you're gonna play. If not, sit." DP said, "F it, I'm out." So this led to people thinking, like, "Oh my God, did he just basically kind of quit on the team? Was this a dispute that happened at a practice that then led to him saying, I don't feel well, I don't want to play?" And then Bill Self said, "I don't give a F, just don't play." He's like, "All right, I'm not playing." And then you got the response from the AD, the associate AD, saying, "The person texted in this video is a contracted crew worker who handles official stats during the game for ESPN. He does not work for KU and is not affiliated with the athletic department in any way. He has no inside information and was speculating. We are handling internally." That's kind of a weird statement to run out and be like, "Oh, that thing you're seeing that is very specific, that guy doesn't work for us. He has no inside information. We're handling internally." What are you handling internally? He's sending a text to a personal friend. He wasn't sending this to, Stephen A. Smith, I don't think, right? He wasn't sending this to, Jeff Goodman, right? This is a person who is sending this out. I don't think he has a reason to lie on a personal thing. But even that, what is there to handle internally? He's not allowed to see what he saw and text his friend what happened. I don't quite understand. Is there some kind of NDA that he signs if he's involved with practices or he sees shoot-arounds? I don't know. But if this is true, let's take it if it is true. I do think we have to have some questions about Darren Peterson and this doesn't want to play, wants to play. Oh, I'm hurt. Oh, I'm not 100%. I'm not gonna play to 100%. It's like it's like that Roman Reigns. It's a terrible promo where John Cena cooks him. But like the one part I do like is when he this is when he's still the big dog and he's like you kind of show up whenever you want and it depends on what city it is and if it's the right feel and if they pay me right, like it's like then you'll show up and actually show up and do your job while I'm doing this full time. It is starting to feel like if the world isn't perfect, the stars aren't aligned, the moon's not aligned, that he's gonna find a reason not to play. And I watched that environment and I'm like, how the hell you'd have to kill Kobe Bryant to not want to get on that court because he gets compared to Kobe Bryant a lot. I understand it with his game, his skill set and his game is reminiscent of Kobe Bryant. You would have to kill Kobe Bryant to not want to step on that floor. As electric as Al Fieldhouse was, you have an undefeated #1 team coming into your house, and you're sick, and you don't even try to play. And we saw him in pregame, like walking around. He definitely was talking to an assistant, being like, "I don't know, I don't feel." Like he was saying something to the assistant, but it does feel like, man, like they've been giving this guy a lot of grace and giving this kid a lot of space. For if we can't go, they won't play him. They'll play him on a certain amount of minutes. They won't play him for a second half. Like they're treating him with kid gloves. But as an athlete and as a competitor, I do watch that game and I'm like, how do you not want to get out there? How do you not even try to give it a go? I'd have to be thrown up on the court to not want to play. I think most athletes feel that way. And he's got a lot of money coming to him. He's getting paid a lot now. This is NIL. It's not like he's playing for free anymore. So it's not like he's not being paid at all. I know there's a big bag coming as soon as he leaves college, but you're getting paid now. This is #1 team. It's not anything with your legs. Now this is just you don't feel well. I do wonder, in terms of just I've said that I've been on the outside. I've leaned towards AJ DeBonta as my #1 pick, and Peterson at 2. It's razor close, and most people will disagree, but I think you can make a case for either guy. AJ DeBonta, he's kind of kid. I feel like you'd have to kill him not want to get on that court. Like I don't think that he's taking. There's no reason or no way he's missing that kind of game. So I see Peterson sit out, and it does make me wonder. Like when we talk about comparing him to Kobe, comparing him to the greats, like the greats, they would have wanted to get out there on that court. The greats aren't going to sit there and say, I got a stomach ache and therefore I can't go out there. I mean, I tweeted, man, he's not beating these street clothes allegations. This guy has dealt with a lot. Now, what I will say, what was interesting was Jeff Goodman said he spoke to one GM, and that GM said, quote, I think people are overreacting. I don't know if anyone has enough info yet. It's not that big of a deal to me if he can play the last month of the season. We've got NBA guys and you got guys in the NBA who missed 2 months with a strained hamstring. Let me just get this for us. I'm trying to see if I can post this up for you guys so you can see what's going on. Yeah, so we got guys in the NBA who missed 2 months with a strained hamstring. A lot of guys who would have shut him down for the rest of the season already. People have to pump the brakes. People get the flu. People have to remember this is just a small snapshot of his entire career. I think he's still probably the #1 pick, but we'll see. And we'll see is doing a little work there. I think I think he's the #1 pick, but we'll see. I don't know if it should make him not the #1 pick in the draft. Like my thing about Peterson hasn't even been necessarily about like him being hurt or not playing. I look at a guy who's 6'9" with AJ DeBanta's skill set and the potential of growth, and I feel like that guy is a little more of a special athletic specimen than what Peterson is. With Peterson, it's just this high skill level, which is undeniable. But if you're going to be a 6'5" guard drafted #1, you better be. And he's good. I'm not going to sit here and try to lie to you that, this guy doesn't have the goods. A lot of people compare him to Kyrie Irving, where Kyrie Irving played only 9 games at Duke, and then he still was #1 pick, and it was no conversation about it. He's got the goods. There's no question about that. But he's missing a lot of games. So you start to wonder at what point do you say, hey, man, like, what's the deal? Like, do you want to play? Do you want to sit out for the season? Like, what's going on? Because Kansas is now starting to show that they actually do have what it takes to maybe go on a run. And if they got Darren Peterson, obviously they become super dangerous. But now you start to get in that weird mode of like, because he's in and out of the lineup so much, and they're winning games without him, like, do they become a team that becomes a tough team to gel in March Madness if they have to play Darren Peterson, right? So I think there's a lot of things to really explore, honestly. If you're Kansas and if you're Darren Peterson, they got to figure out what do they want out of this thing. Does Darren Peterson want to compete and try to win a national championship? If he doesn't, I think he should shut it down. I think this middle game is getting a little ridiculous. He doesn't want to play because of flu in a game that's the biggest game of the season and not even try to give it a go. That was something to me. I know some people will say it's nothing. You're making a big deal out of this. I was a little disappointed, honestly, that Peterson didn't at least try to play in that game last night. But what a night at the Fog. Awesome game. Kansas beats number 1 undefeated Arizona. All right. I told you guys it was coming, and the time is here. He is co-host of Maggie and Perloff. He is contributor, writer for Athlon Sports, and formerly McLovin of the Dan Patrick Show, though he's always going to be McLovin. I have my guy, Andrew Perloff, joining me live on 40 Days, 40 Nights with the Super Bowl hat on, jumping on the bandwagon like he always does. Like he got the Seahawks hat, they won, so now to the victor go the spoils, or to the victor goes Andrew Perloff. And I hear he is celebrating the Seahawks when I love that you wore that hat, Pearl. What's up, man?
It's a bird, right? It's not the Eagles, but it's a bird. It's so good to see you, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been doing great. I mean, you've been doing a lot. You had the Super Bowl. You had the Senior Bowl. It seems like you've been busy.
Yeah, it's been kind of busy, since we've been on this hiatus, whatever. I've been doing some freelance writing. It's been super fun. I was out in San Francisco for the week doing interviews for Athlon. It was a weird week. I don't know what you heard from your buddies, but they cut Media Row down significantly. A lot of people couldn't get a table and couldn't get a space, partly because it wasn't a big convention center. The fire marshal was all over them. So it was a tricky week to navigate, but the weather was good. I have to tell you that, EJ. Not to make you jealous, but it was 65 every day.
And that, to be honest, as when I started thinking about if we were going to be going out there prior to the show ending, like I thought San Francisco. I'm like, San Francisco during the winter is not that fun. In theory, It's not that fun. But again, I kept looking at the weather. I saw the weather for the game was like 67. I was like, really, for an evening game? That seems kind of crazy. But yeah, it seemed like the weather was gorgeous out there, which now I'm really jealous because it's been a frozen tundra here, as you know, for 2 months. It's been the coldest New York I've experienced in years.
Did you see our buddy Zach Gelb was at the game, and I think he had a short sleeve shirt on.
He did. He had a jersey. He had a Patriots jersey. Shameless. Shameless Zach Gelb.
I know. Well, he was talking trash about the Pats all week. My family, half of it's from Boston, so I was getting Patriots trash talk all week long. But, it's funny. At Radio Row, though, I'd say 95% of people were picking the Seahawks. Like, there was no doubt. Nobody was picking the Patriots, like every expert. So that actually made me think at the last minute, I'm like, all the experts are on Seattle. All the money's coming in on Seattle. It was like 63% according to Action Network. So I'm like, if everyone's coming in on Seattle, maybe I should change my pick and go New England. But I did not. You know what it was, and I'm sure you kind of feel this way. We'll get into it, but the path that New England took was not impressive. I mean, it was impressive in the sense they got to the Super Bowl, but it really fell the right way.
Yeah, Andrew Perloff from Maggie and Perloff Show joins me right now. I wanted to ask you about that because essentially what I had said yesterday was, and I picked the Seahawks, and I said this on you guys' show, and I said it for months, that I felt like whoever's coming out of the AFC was getting their heads cracked by whoever came out of the AFC. I just thought it was a much better league. And when it definitely became the Patriots, then I was like, this is not going to go well. And a lot of it came from, for me, watching Drake May and him struggle. I don't know how much it was the injuries, but during the playoffs, he just looked like a quarterback that was advancing when in normal years he would have been eliminated already. Like, we see those young quarterbacks that first time you get to the playoffs, and there's a lot of hoopla and a lot of hope, and then you realize, the speed of the game is different, and the preparation is different, and the teams that scout you much better during the postseason. It's just harder, and it usually takes them a year, maybe 2 or 3 years to finally get that push. It's rare you have a Patrick Mahomes or some of these guys that can win in their second go or go deep in their first go, like Jaden Daniels. Yeah. Burrow, right, exactly.
Burrow,
right. Like, a lot of those guys, it takes time. And he looked like a guy that, this is one of the quarterbacks that should be eliminated, but because every game there was something weird happening where like the Chargers couldn't block, or the C.J. Stroud lost his mind. Don't know what happened to him. And then you play a backup quarterback in a snowstorm who basically gave you a touchdown with a fumble that was deep in your own territory. I'm like, if Mahomes was here, if Burrow was here, if Lamar was here, he would have been gone. He shouldn't have been in this spot. I don't know. How did you see Drake May's kind of progression throughout the postseason?
No, I mean, everything you said is absolutely accurate. Here's the thing, though. I don't blame May. I mean, he has nobody to throw to. So that really shows up against really good teams. I think he actually wasn't quite as bad as his number. Actually, his numbers looked up. He had 295 yards at the end of the day. I felt like when they got way down, you saw him relax a little bit and just sort of start to sling it. That was better. I think he was a little tight. What is the one thing to make Drake May special? I think he was the leading scrambler among all quarterbacks this season. I heard that stat.
Yeah.
Like, his legs will kill you because he can run. So at the end of the day, the way Seattle plays, they only rush 4 and everybody's in a zone, so they can see him. So his running wasn't going to kill him. He did run a couple times, but his running wasn't going to kill him. So without that, forget it. Without that secret weapon. And the way you described the path, C.J. Stroud, by the way, lost his mind 2 games in a row. He was terrible the game before. He just played awful this offseason. I don't know what's going on there. I was all about C.J. Stroud. Yeah. So, you tied the two together, you really never know what a young quarterback's going to do. Like, how is he going to progress? I think Drake May is good, not great. I think we're kind of in the same ballpark. But, man, that team is just they're a step away. They're just not ready. Stephon Diggs is not prime Stephon Diggs. They should trade for maybe A.J. Brown. I don't know how many more years you're going to get out of that. He needs a star receiver, and they need to keep building. Denver, a healthy Denver with Bo Nix beats that team. I think in Denver, in New England might be a different story. You're so right about no Lamar, no Mahomes. I mean, our girl Maggie. Oh man, this was the year for Josh Allen. But that team, like the Patriots, that's not a perfect team either. You look at Seattle; they're a much more complete team. Whether you like Sam Darnold or not, they have great receivers, great running back, good offensive line. We knew that, and that killer defense. New England doesn't have all those pieces. You're right. In a normal year, they shouldn't have been here. Let's in our head, like who's a similar. Cincinnati was a little different because I think Burrow's the next level. Right. But there are a couple, teams that got there too early.
I mean, to be honest, the team I think about that's kind of similar, and I saw that Drake May had the 3rd worst QBR since QBR was involved in postseason stats. Second was Peyton Manning, ironically, to go that far. Super Bowl. Peyton Manning, ironically, was second as he had.
In Denver, game. The year they beat.
No, this was the Super Bowls for Super Bowl performances. This was when he went to. That wasn't the Denver game. It was when they beat the Bears because it was a rainstorm.
Oh, in a win.
And the worst was Rex Grossman, and I kind of wonder if this team was kind of like that, like Bears team. Like,
no.
You think that Bears team was much better?
No, that Bears team was terrible. They won with special teams and defense.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like the Patriots were kind of like that. Like
Drake May missed the MVP by 1 vote.
I know, but I'm talking about how I saw them play in the playoffs. But yeah, I know what I know what he did in the regular season. In the playoffs, they kind of looked like the Bears from that year. Like they were winning in spite of their quarterback.
Oh, I don't know. No. You think it was in spite of him? I think the whole thing was conservative. You know what I mean? Like, I think like they're just like, don't ruin this. You're going up against the Chargers are not good in the playoffs. Yeah. C.J. Stroud they played conservatively because they didn't need to. If Drake May had started to throw picks, and by the way, I felt during the game like, an interception is coming soon. He's getting a little risky, and that interception really hurt in the 4th quarter because they could have made it a game. So, avoiding interceptions is a big deal. So I will say that Drake May, I think I'm higher on Drake May than you in the playoffs because he played relatively clean. Like, he didn't have the mistake to kill him, like the Stidham.
He had a record amount of fumbles, Pearl. He had more fumbles
than
He didn't
have the mistake that killed them. That killed them.
Right, but that's because the other team couldn't capitalize. He had 7 fumbles, I think, through the first 3 games.
How many did he lose?
He lost a lot of them against the Texans. He lost all of them, I think, or almost all of them. He had a ton of fumbles. He wasn't throwing picks. I agree with that. He threw 1 pick, I think, against the Texans, but he wasn't throwing picks. But he was fumbling the ball.
Yeah, but generally though, he was. The offense could have opened up a little more if they had to. If they got in a shootout, he could have thrown it downfield, which he did at the end of the game. Let me ask you this: are you just not high on Drake May? I mean. Do you think he's going to be like C.J. Stroud, where we risk a major step back?
No, I think he's a star. I think he's a star quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of this was, you were right, and I agreed. He didn't have receivers that could beat those kind of DBs. He had an offensive line that just stopped protecting. Like, see, and
Will Campbell. Oh,
yeah, he was a turnstile, and like this was a problem that they had towards the end of the regular season that then carried into the postseason. So a line that stopped protecting, he had no shot. Like, he would have needed a lot of support, I think, to get through. I think he's still. I mean, his physical tools, you can't teach. His size, his speed.
Yeah.
When he has time, he's typically very accurate. I don't know what happened to his accuracy. I don't know if the shoulder was a part of this, because he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. And there were throws on Sunday where he was just off. He was off all night. I don't know if the rush was getting to him too, where he's kind of maybe rushing throws that he wouldn't normally do. But I think he's good. I think he's still going to be a star, and he is a star. Obviously, he was just second in MVP. I just think. I personally, I thought it was insane that it was even a conversation between him and Matthew Stafford for MVP. Stafford, to me, is the best quarterback in the NFL. He's playing the best. I know May had good numbers. His team won a lot. But I think if you're putting him in that class, I would say, no, I don't think he's that good right now. Can he get there? Of course. Yeah. But I'm not down on him for his career. But I did think this postseason you learned a lot about, hey, we pumped the brakes on putting, the Hall of Fame bus getting ready for Drake May. Let's let him continue to develop and see what the Patriots could do, because they got a lot of work to do this offseason to put this thing together, because next year their schedule is brutal. I don't know if you've seen it. They got the NFC North. They got the NFC North and got the AFC West. And they have the Jaguars, because they're a first-place team. So they're going to get Mahomes. They're going to get the Broncos again. They're going to get Herbert and the Chargers. They're going to get the Vikings. They're going to get the Lions. And you're going to get the Packers. And who else am I missing? And the Bears. and they go along. I mean, the AFC East is weak, so that will help them. But I don't even know if it's a guarantee. I was on with Carlos Ortiz and Bart Winkler yesterday, and Carlos was like, I don't know if this team makes the playoffs next year. And I looked at the schedule and I was like, it's a tough schedule. That's nothing like they had this past year. Are you worried that this is a one and done?
No, I mean, I hear you. That's perfect sense. Yeah, it's coming. It's going to come down. I mean, there's no 14 wins coming. That's for sure. That's such a great point about the schedule. By the way, one last thing to put about Josh McDaniels called a terrible first half. I mean, he should have gotten the ball out so fast. I don't think he knows how to call that game necessarily. So I think McDaniels was getting a lot of praise coming in. I think that they fix it. You know why I don't think it's going to be a huge setback? Because I kind of like Vrabel. I mean, look at Tennessee. They were ahead of the curve with Derrick Henry that one year, got to the AFC title game. He's going to win a lot of games. Similar run where they weren't super dangerous, but they won. Then they lost that game to Burrow when they were the number one seed. So I think Vrabel keeps them sort of in the loop. But you're right about the NFC North is going to be pretty brutal. I mean, the Jets and the Dolphins the Jets are probably in a limbo year, and the Dolphins are in a rebuild year. So I do think that's a big deal. Like Bills will be good, but I think that they have a great chance to make the playoffs coming out of that division. And also, too, they have some good young players. Christian Gonzalez was a monster.
He's
on
awesome.
Sunday. He's awesome. They're Milton Williams, when he's in there, is great. They have ballers on defense. That'll be enough.
Now we gotta get to the champs, because you're repping the champs today with the hat. And
I kind of look like Mike McDonald. I just want to say that right now.
Kind of, yeah. You take off the glasses, I think you got to look down, hoodie and everything. I want to actually talk about Mike McDonald, because I feel like he's kind of become the lost guy in this.
Yeah.
Are we seeing like the next great NFL head coach and maybe great defensive mind? Like, this is I could not believe the stat when they said this on the broadcast, that he's the first head coach to call defensive plays and win a Super Bowl. I said that can't be right. I'm looking through the history, and at first I immediately run to Bill Belichick. I was like, well, no, he had Roman Cornell, he had Flores, Matt Patricia. I guess technically he wasn't calling defensive plays, but I mean, did we underrate his value to this team? And just what were you impressed just with, like, kind of his run during this season? Taking a team that was not expected to win a Super Bowl, that's for sure, and to have the number one seed and to really dominate the postseason the way they did.
First of all, I don't know, because I'm not a defensive scheme guy, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's that different than Nick Sirianni, because I think this is a combo of the GM and the coach working well together. They built a team. Last year, they didn't have this team. They built a team, John Schneider, the GM of the Seahawks, that could run the ball and is awesome on defense. They put a lot of resources into defense. Obviously, they hit gold with Devin Witherspoon. And I think it's a similar model to the Eagles with Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. So I think he's a really good coach. Yeah, but I don't see him as the singular force that, say, a Belichick or an Andy Reid is. I think it's a combo with the GM. And I'm not saying that sounds like derogatory. He does seem like a very, very good coach, but I'm not sure he can do that without being in cahoots with John Snyder. And by the way, you could probably say the same thing about Sean McVay and Les Snead with the Rams. You need everybody working on the same page. But to be honest, this is like kind of the talent of this team stands out to me too. It's not just the coaching. And he's got a little Harbaugh without some of the Harbaugh-isms too, in a good way. Feels like he's got all the good Harbaugh things, and he's a really good defensive coach. But let's be honest. I mean, this was not like they were right there with the Rams. That was a coin toss between those two teams, an absolute coin toss who was going to get out of there. So do I think they're going to go on some sort of dynastic run? Not really. No, I think they're closer to the Eagles right now.
That's funny because when I was talking about it with Bart and Carlos yesterday, I was saying that to me, because people were like, what do we take away from this game? A lot of people have trouble what to take away from. Because I think no one thinks that they're a dynasty, but I also think no one thinks that they're like some like one-off and like they won't be around and part of the conversation anymore. Because I think people agree that whatever you think, Pacific Northwest, maybe not watching them enough, the talent is real. They're defensive. They have like, it seems like 8 pass rushers. Like it seems like every game I'm watching, there's another guy on. Wait, who's that guy? And I'm wait, that guy's got sacked now. Like there was a guy, one of their interior defensive linemen, who I'd never heard of, and I feel like I got to know their team pretty well, who just bull rushed the center and sacked May. I mean, you probably remember the play, the white dude. And I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but that was an incredible pass rush. They just have pass rushers on pass rushers on pass rushers. But I think some of that has been like the question where it's like, okay, this is a great team, but I don't know if they're like the Chiefs, but I don't think they're also like what we thought the Rams were when they had that, F them picks year. We now know they still were a team that was going to get them. But it seems like they're kind of in the middle, which I think has made it hard for people to kind of wrap their head around what to expect from this Seahawks team moving forward. And I think Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl didn't play so great. I think had he played much better, I think maybe people would be more willing to say this could be a team that could repeat next year.
Okay, I totally agree with everything you just said. I thought Sam Darnold was better than he had no time. And when he had time, he created time. So I think that the fact that he didn't have a turnover, I thought Sam Darnold played much, the 9 for 22, he was just protecting the ball. They were playing the game they were in. They're like, they knew pretty quickly that New England was not going to be able to move the ball. So they did not take a lot of shots. And they just missed, he didn't really have time for the Rashid Shaheed shots. He just didn't have time to really dial those up the right way. I thought he played much better than people say. And how shocking is it that Sam Darnold got through the whole playoffs without an interception?
Incredible.
Shocking. Incredible. So but I get your point. Like, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to carry them single-handedly. I was just looking at the odds. Have you looked at them for next year?
I did.
The Seahawks
so
won.
They're co-favorites with the Rams. This was how it opened up. I don't know if it changed today, but they were co-favorites with the Rams, 950. Actually, I may have those odds right in front of me. Actually, I ran them yesterday. Do I have it here? Let me see. I can put it on the screen. I do not have them here, unfortunately. Or what's this? Maybe this is it. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. No, but I had the odds yesterday. But they were like plus 950 with the Rams, and that seems right. Like, I think those are the 2 best teams in the NFL. Those are 2 best teams I watched all season. So I wasn't super surprised by that. I was surprised that the Chiefs were all the way down at 9th. That is pretty. That's pretty far down. I mean, let me see if I can pull it up real quick, and at least I can read them to you. But I was surprised that the Chiefs were that low. The Packers were actually ahead of the Chiefs, which I didn't understand because I'm like, Patrick Mahomes has a knee injury. Michael Parsons got injured the same week, so if you're worried about Mahomes' injury, shouldn't you be worried about Michael Parsons? So I didn't quite understand that. In terms of the odds. So I saw for the Super Bowl next year, you're looking at Rams, Bills, I believe, were 3rd. They were plus 1,100. So people still high on the Bills, which I understand. They're the Bills, and I think you got to keep putting them in that conversation as long as Josh Allen has a pulse. But coming into next year, I still feel like you're looking at the NFC team still, I think, looking a lot more like the teams that are going to be most dominant in this run. And the Patriots were way down the Ravens actually were like
I'm
1,300, I believe, which is kind of crazy. I thought that was a little high for them, to be honest. But yeah, that was kind of those were some of the big ones. I don't know. Was there anything that stood out to you?
Well, I know it's interesting to me, the Niners. Can you imagine if this Niners team was healthy this year? They would have really been in the mix. They were close without Bosa and Warner. Can you imagine if you added those two guys in? That's a team. I mean, obviously, I actually know this guy, Sean Mannion, the Eagles hired as OC. And, that's cool. I think that could be really interesting. I think the Eagles every other year team. So the Eagles have some drama on the coaching staff.
Perloff might have froze here. Hopefully I can see if I can save him. Oh, we lost him. Damn it. I knew that was going to happen. Once I start putting up stuff on the screen and start doing a bunch of stuff, I could sometimes lose people. We got Perloff coming back. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, sorry, that was on me. When I start to do a lot of stuff with a guest, it ends up screwing up the connection. So we should be all good. But sorry, what were you saying about the Eagles' coaching situation?
No, I think the Eagles are in the mix, so they have some coaching drama. Jeff Stoutland, the great O-line coach, left.
Yes.
There was reported that he had some run play calls taken out of his hands by Sirianni and Kevin Patullo. So the Eagles had a mess on the offensive coaching staff. But you don't know. They have the talent where if they get their coaching staff right, and I like Sean Mannion. I knew him through the DP show. Great guy. Nicest guy in the world. If they can fix that, they obviously have the talent to go all the way too. So you're right. I love that take by you that the NFC looks stronger, but you have the Seahawks, the Niners, the Rams, the Eagles. Now, I do worry about the Lions without Ben Johnson. I'm sorry that took a major step back. The Bears are a team to watch. They're going to be – The
Bears are plus 2,500 as of yesterday. I said yesterday I thought that was the play if you were going to bet anybody. I think those are great odds. I know they're in a tough division. I know the division is going to get – the schedule is going to be tougher as a first-place team. But Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson clearly created some magic late in games. I look at that and I'm like, why wouldn't you? I mean, they had the Texans ahead of them, the Jaguars, the Broncos. I think the Bears are better than all those teams.
I don't know about that. Texans and Jaguars are both – I mean, those defenses fly. Both those defenses are great. If you had the Texans defense and any other – that's a Super Bowl defense, but you're right. Definitely. I don't know about the whole
offense.
Team.
That's a problem for me. The offense is suspect.
Their run game was – I mean, Woody Marks did an admirable job, but that run game they had no plan. C.J. Stroud lost his mind. It's interesting. I can you bet on Polymark or something on the NFC for next year? But you're right. This is going to be interesting. The Chiefs, so we don't know if Mahomes is going to be Mahomes early in the season. Remember Brady when he tore his ACL? He came back. I feel like it took 2 years to get that machine rolling again. And then they got the Super Bowl in 11 and lost, and then they really got together. So I'm not high on them. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting team too. The Ravens do not feel as threatening, and they lost Todd Monken obviously, but it does feel like, they got rid of John Harbaugh. So I just feel like, I feel like they, their front office and their coaching staff are not all on the same page right now. So, I love Lamar, but I don't think he could do it without the whole team being together. And last year on defense too, like they really seemed to try and cheap out on defense. I feel like they didn't have a lot of names. They didn't really have much going on there. So I'm not so high on the Ravens at third. Yeah, it's a great call on the Bears. The Broncos are really low too. Why not the Broncos?
Yeah, they're really low.
Well, what's wrong with that team?
Yeah, we kind of didn't get to – if you had doubts about them, we didn't get to see whether or not they could have really overcame them because they had an injury. Like they had, I think, a pretty impressive first win. You beat the Buffalo Bills and you turned over Josh Allen 4 times. And again, I think most people were running to the Bills to win that game. I'm you know me, I'm not the biggest Sean Payton guy. Not necessarily as a coach, just as a person. And we saw what he did with Joe Lombardi. And how he threw his quarterback's ankle under the bus, something I never thought I would hear. And Bo Nick didn't seem to like that when he's talking about, this guy, he was destined to have this kind of injury. And he had all these surgeries. And Bo Nick's like, no, I didn't. Which is probably for him. He's probably like, yo, bro, like, they're going to be defensive tackles now that I'm going after my ankles knowing that I have this injury risk. So it wasn't seemingly smart. Payton seems to like always deflect blame, which I think annoys me. But there's no doubt that he's a great coach and what he has done for that team. Yeah, I think you got to take the Broncos seriously. Yeah, these odds were weird. The Chargers were really high. I didn't really get that. They lost Jesse Minter. I agree with the Ravens. I thought the Ravens, and the thing about the Ravens for me, and you mentioned kind of Lamar. What is Lamar age 30? Like, because we've seen mobile quarterbacks as they get older, they got to kind of adjust their game. And if you don't have your legs, you got to figure, all right, can I consistently win from the pocket? And with teams not necessarily as afraid of me running. Because last year, he looked like a guy that just couldn't run. And you can say, well, he's injured, but like he's going to get injured. He's going to be necked up. He's older now. So I want to see what Lamar Jackson is post age 30 before I like run back to the Ravens. I felt like they had their window and they missed their opportunity these past two seasons when they were number 1 overall seed. And last year, they were a wild card. They had a gaudy record and they should have beat the Bills if Mark Andrews can hold on to the ball. That feels like a team that maybe is going to have kind of a reset, I think, to get back to Super Bowl contention. I'm surprised they're that high. Only I think it was maybe people are betting the Ravens a lot. I don't know.
That home loss in the AFC title game where Zay Flowers screwed up twice late in the game is really good. Oh, there's Lita. What's up, Lita?
Yeah. Lita's in it. There she goes.
Yeah.
She's
that was a missed opportunity. Absolutely. They were the better team that game, too. And Lamar just turned it on way too late. By the way, Josh Allen, I just looked up, going to turn 32. He's another guy.
Yeah.
He needs his leg. But he feels like a tank, though, where Lamar is all speed, where Josh Allen is power and speed. So he'll last a little longer. I mean, the reason Philly fell apart this year is Jalen Hurts won't run. Whether that's that's absolutely – I talked – out in Super Bowl week, all I did was talk Eagles with him.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the Eagles.
Jalen Hurts' refusal to run was the death knell for that offense. It's designed to have a quarterback running. So I would watch them in the third round. If they take a quarterback, I mean, it's not a good quarterback draft, but they might want to recreate the Carson Wentz situation where Wentz started to lose his effectiveness and they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. There's a big debate in Philly. Is it Sirianni? Is it Hurts? It's not Howie. Everyone trusts Howie. But I've been saying this since he got that $50 million a year contract, he doesn't want to run as much. And this year it was blatantly obvious. Dude would run out of bounds horizontally and not take contact, which is smart, I guess. But the Eagles aren't that good. They're just not that good where they cannot. You need a running quarterback. Look, that's why the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, because Drake make a run. That's why Justin Herbert, by the way, great passer, but they need his legs. It is a running quarterback league. And you saw Pittsburgh, if Aaron Rodgers had his legs from when he was 25 this year in Pittsburgh, they probably would have been in the Super Bowl. But he just couldn't move like that. You need – and there's such a thin margin with teams. Like a running quarterback is such a difference.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think there are a lot of now guys between Hurts and Lamar and Josh Allen that we got to follow. Josh Allen's now, hey, we know he had a broken foot. So we're gonna these guys are starting to take some of this punishment and they're approaching it in different ways. Allen seems to not care; he's just torpedoing his body into danger no matter what. And you got Hurts who's taking a different approach. So that's going to be for those teams that are relying on mobile quarterbacks. How those guys progress as they get a little older, I think is going to be interesting. Staying on the Eagles real quick, if you had to kind of put a cap on this past Eagles season where you had the disappointing loss to the 49ers, even though they lost Kittle mid-game. Are you putting the majority of the blame on Sirianni, on Hurts, or on Howie? Because it seems like if you're talking about the Eagles season, it's coming down to those three in terms of how people view what went wrong. Or I guess a fourth, maybe A.J. Brown. Is he in that mix too, I guess?
Yeah.
Where do you what went wrong for the Eagles in terms of why they came up short this year?
So Sirianni did not do a great job. There's no doubt about it. He couldn't keep the locker room on the same page. But I think I'm hearing more and more the problem is Hurts. That it's Jalen Hurts. That for some reason him and the coaching staff are not on the same page. I don't think they like each other. And I kind of think that the passing game is limited with Jalen Hurts a little bit. I just think that teams figured out, hey, the Eagles can only do this many things. So honestly, coming into before the Super Bowl, I kind of thought it was Sirianni. But now I kind of think it's Hurts, that Jalen Hurts is not really – I don't know. I don't want to say he's a real competitor. Just Jalen Hurts would, kill you to win a game. Don't get me wrong. but he seemed kind of stubborn this year, where he just didn't want to do things a different way. He kind of wanted to do them his way, and the offense was terrible. So I kind of lean Hurts is the problem. But listen, I'm not inside. I'm a Jalen Hurts fan, and that sounds way too harsh. But it doesn't seem like he played well last year, or that he was engaged the same way that he was the year before. Felt like he's the quarterback. Listen, great quarterbacks lift everybody, and coaches are supposed to do it too. But if you're a Hall of Fame quarterback, we see it with Mahomes. Everyone rallies around Mahomes. Everyone rallied around Tom Brady. Did everyone rally around Jalen Hurts? I don't think so. It seems like from the distance that the leadership wasn't there. Now, listen, there are a lot of people who think that's Sirianni. Sirianni can be a knucklehead. There's no doubt about it. So I lean Hurts, but again, I'm not inside the building, so I don't know. It just seemed like this year the chemistry was all off. The body, what we get to see, like them on the sidelines, none of that looked right, just from like a fan point of view.
Yeah, I mean, even someone who's not an Eagles fan, I think you could see that with her, something was going on, and I think the coaching staff stuff is interesting. What makes it so a tough situation is, so what do you do about it? Because Sirianni is not gonna get fired. Like, I know he's
Well, he's close. I mean, listen, he's on the hot seat.
You think so?
Well, Doug Peterson got fired a few years after his Super Bowl win. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of pressure in Philly. I think Howie needs a Super Bowl, at least he expects a Super Bowl. Yeah, I think Sirianni's on the hot seat. I think Hurts is definitely on the hot seat. Like, he could be coming into. I don't think that they're looking at Hurts as a 10-year quarterback the way he's playing right now. So yeah, because look, it's the same thing with Doug Peterson. If they take a step back this year, I do think Sirianni will be back on the hot seat. Remember, Maggie always used to be like, "Wow, he's going to be the first coach fired or something."
Yeah,
that was a little too harsh. But Sirianni, this Jeff Stoutland leaving. So Jeff Stoutland's the O-line coach is like a god in Philly. Stoutland, Kelsey, Mailata, Lane Johnson, all these superstars. Lane Johnson, Hall of Famer. Kelsey probably. I think he might be a Hall of Famer too. I'm not sure.
I feel like he'll get in, especially with now that he's come.
With that publicity
that helps him.
And Jordan Mailata is a force. And then what happened this year? The two interior guys, Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, both got kind of banged up. That killed the Eagles. They couldn't run the ball. That was the death knell. So they have one more year to milk of Saquon. If they get a big Saquon year, that will be awesome. AJ, I think AJ is too expensive to trade. Like, it's really hard to trade him. So we'll see. But it does feel like I'd like to try to be an analytic guy. It does feel like there's some chemistry wrong with this team. Like that the guys are not all pulling for each other. But then again, they weren't. AJ Brown wasn't pulling for everybody 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. He was reading a book on the sideline. So I don't know. But I think they could be in every other year. But if they take a step back, then Sirianni's in trouble.
Pearl, I got you here. I got to ask you about some hoops because, people always want to hear what you're saying about your Sixers and what's going on in the NBA. First of all, LeBron, do you think this is the end? Do you think this is his last season?
Yes.
You do? You're on that. I mean, because you got the 23 patch and then all the weird machinations. He's talking about how much he loves golf now. Like, I feel like I've been seeing signs that this is going to be the end for LeBron James. It's surprising because it feels like it's surprising because like I would have assumed he wanted a retirement tour, but then even I think it was Dave McMenamin basically put an article out explaining why he wouldn't want a retirement tour, and it kind of made sense. It was like, well, he doesn't want the pressure of having to play every game, especially on the road. Like, he knows he needs load management. He doesn't want people. Remember the guy that sued LeBron earlier this year because he had that commercial that we talked about on Maggie Perloff show and about like, oh, this is my last hurrah, and then it was like some Bitcoin or something like that. And the guy sued LeBron and sued the Lakers. He said he doesn't want that kind of pressure, so he'd rather just play and then his career ends. So you also feel like this could be the end here?
Yeah, he says some stuff after games that sound like that. It's not exactly like I'm done, but they seem like I don't. Oh, it was the Cleveland game when he was crying.
Yeah.
That one, I was like, oh, this is it. This is a goodbye. That one really kind of pushed me over the edge. And also, too, I think that he's still effective, but I don't think he wants to see his skills deteriorate any further. And God bless him, he's so freaking good for this age. But still, I think he's got a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I feel like he's kind of trapped. Like I feel like he doesn't. I don't think he really wants to play for the Lakers anymore, but he doesn't want the inconvenience of not being in LA for the lifestyle and everything that comes with that. So where else do you go? Like, and I also don't think he wants to play for like $1. Like, I think he could, in theory, go anywhere he wants next year. But I don't think he wants to play for the minimum or whatever just to have 1 year. I think he wants to make the money he feels like he's worth. And I do think every dollar going towards whatever ownership thing he wants to do after his career, I think matters. So I think he's like, I don't really know what to do. If I could play in a different situation, I would do that. But then I got to leave LA. And then I have to take less money. And I don't really want to do that. And the Lakers seem to be like, we're just going to keep doing this year-to-year thing until you go. We're not committing to you long-term. Like, whenever you go, all right, bye. But we're not going to, like, he keeps putting out the Rich Paul is using his podcast to talk about all the issues with the Lakers. And they don't seem to care. They're just like, all right, you over there, do your podcast. That's fine. We're not going to trade Austin Reeves. We're not going to do any of the stuff you're talking about. So I feel like he's stuck. And I think he's realizing that. So he's like, well, I might as well leave because I'm not wanted here. I don't really want to be here. And if I can go to a team that would maybe it'll give me all the power and stuff, that'd be one thing. But the inconvenience of it just doesn't make sense at this point in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all that is true. I know about the money and he's trying to buy a team, but like honestly, like to buy a team, it's not going to make that much of a difference, $35 million or whatever. So yeah, I come back to the pride thing. There's a couple plays where this year where sometimes he'll throw it down and he looks like old LeBron. But there's some plays where it's just like he must be look back at the tape and be like, oh man, that didn't look good. Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. And the Lakers are clearing out for 2 years from now, right? Or is it next year where they're trying to empty out?
2 years from now,
cap?
yeah, 2027 is the summer where they want to be clean.
Which is interesting because what if LeBron retires and you have Luka, prime Luka? Isn't there going to be pressure to sort of try and do something next year too? Anytime you have Luka, you cannot waste that. So can they really wait 2 years? I don't really know. To finish it though, like LeBron, I think it's done, and it should be done, and he should not go back to Cleveland. And now that Harden's there, there's no way he's going back. Well, we'll see if Harden's still there, but yeah, I don't see any other option. I think to try and figure out the machinations of where he could land somewhere different, it's just. We're overcomplicating what is right in front of our face.
I got to ask you how you're feeling about your Sixers. I think they've been a bit of a surprise. Embiid, now that he's starting to play more, starting to look a little more like Joel Embiid. Do you have any hope that the Sixers maybe do make a playoff push this year? None. Shaking his head already. Nope, not buying it. 0% chance. Why are you so down on your Sixers?
Because even when Embiid was Embiid, they could not win in the playoffs because he will wear himself down and not be healthy for the playoffs. And he's not really a playoff style player. And I've always maintained pessimism about their playoff chances. Now I'll enjoy them being pretty good right now. I got a text from a buddy the other day saying there are only 3 teams in the East that have a chance, and it was Detroit, New York, and Philly. He didn't put Cleveland in there. I was like, okay. Yeah, and I'm like, Philly, who doesn't fit in this? I'll be honest, and I'm a diehard Sixers fan. But no, come on. We're not in that caliber. I don't think. I think there's so many good signs. Obviously, who does not love Tyrese Maxey? It's impossible not to love this man. And he's great, and he's improved even more. He's taken even another step. But it's not going to be enough in the playoffs. I'm sorry. I'll say it right now. You can cut that. And if they win the title, I'll shave an eyebrow. No, I won't shave an eyebrow. I'll do something drastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Philly has a lot of great food, and of course, cheesesteaks being one. What's a gross Philly food? I don't even know what that would.
Oh, that's Scrapple. You ever heard of Scrapple?
Oh, I've heard of Scrapple. Yeah.
Yeah, because out in the Poconos where you were.
Yeah.
It's from
Exactly.
Lancaster County. It's sort of where the Amish are. It's a pork product, and nobody knows what's really in it. And it's gross.
I feel like my dad likes. I feel like my dad likes Scrabble. I feel like that's how I learned about it growing up. That he actually kind of liked it. So maybe you should eat something like that. That should be if the Eagles win. The Sixers actually go to the finals. I'll tell you what. I've said it to you, and I've said it a bunch. The Sixers worry me as a Knicks fan. I know the Knicks are kind of considered one of like the true favorites in the East. The Knicks handled them a couple years ago in the playoffs. I just think that they match up much better this year with the Knicks. with Maxey having Edgecombe next to him, the speed of that backcourt is really tough to handle.
Yeah.
The Knicks beat them the last time they played. It was a good game. But I thought Philly had their way with the Knicks the first 2 times. I know the Knicks were off a back-to-back, so it makes it weird. It's tough to evaluate regular season games because they're the regular season. But just eyeballing these teams on the court, the Knicks, most of the games they play, I feel like they either match up talent-wise or they're much better. I just feel like I was watching these Sixer games, I'm like, man, they don't have the talent gap that they had when they played in the playoffs a couple of years ago. And if Embiid is even close to what he is right now, I think that's a tough series. I think that's a 7-game series. I think you could go either way. Detroit, they're racking up a lot of regular season wins, but I get the feeling they're kind of like last year's Cavs, where they're great in the regular season, but I'm not 100% convinced that this is a dominant postseason team still.
It's interesting. I've heard the narrative a lot, EJ, that it's the Pistons are coming for the Knicks. That feels like I don't know that. That's like
I agree. I think they are.
I have a buddy who's a big Pistons fan who works for the Dan Patrick Show, my friend Ray, who one of the guys on the show, and he texts me all the time. He's like, we're coming. And he said it last year, so I got to give him respect for that. And they're physical, man. That team does not look afraid. So it's interesting. Like the physicality, I would think might translate in the playoffs where they kind of swallow the whistle. So, yeah, I'm not sure. That's interesting that you think they're like last year's Cavs. I, by the way, do not know why the Cavs cannot get over that hump. Because Donovan Mitchell has had some games lately where he's a top 5 player. It's just, I don't know why they can't get over that hump. Can you explain what is limiting them in the postseason? Because on paper, they should be the team. I don't know. Forget the Harden Game 7 factor. But generally, Donovan Mitchell, I saw a game the other day where he scored about 16 points in a row. Nobody could stop him. Why can't they sustain that through the postseason? I still don't totally get it.
I'll be honest, from when I've watched the Cavs play in the postseason, and it goes back to something you say a lot, is sometimes late in games, it really becomes we're just all watching Donovan Mitchell, and then everyone else kind of just stands around. And he's phenomenal. And like there was a game, I think it was game 2, I want to say, against the Pacers last year, where I think he had like 47. This was when all the guys were hurt. He was a one-man wrecking crew. But there was just no way him by himself was going to beat that Pacers team because of how deep they were and how they can beat you in multiple ways. I think in the postseason sometimes, if you don't have the kind of defensive guards that can stop people, because Donovan Mitchell's not a defender, and then Garland was a worse defender, and now you got Harden, who may be worse than Garland. I think they don't consistently stop people, and then their offense kind of gets bogged down to being a one-man show more than it is even in the regular season. Regular season, I feel other guys, Mobley gets touches, Allen gets touches. They had a great win last night against the Nuggets where Allen made some great plays down the stretch. It just feels like when I watch them in the playoffs, they don't play with the same level of sharing the basketball. It's similar to some issues people say about Brunson, but I feel like the Knicks have found a way to have Josh Hart make a big play or OG make a big play. I feel like when I watch Cavs, I don't see those other players making plays and stepping up. It seems like they kind of all look at Mitchell and say, all right, get us out of this, and they've had trouble. Now, Harden is just he's not a wallflower. He's not going to allow this to be the Donovan Mitchell show, but I just don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, that's probably good that you have at least somebody else that's going to want to be aggressive late in games, but we know what Harden is. You are the biggest Harden detractor for what he is late in games. So I got the trade, but I didn't know if that was the right guy to get for Garland if you were going to make a deal. So I'm still kind of down on the Cavs, you know.
Yeah. I think this year might be a little bit different because I think this East is going to be a war. So here's the thing. Like, you can say who's the best team, but it's a lot of matchups, a lot of health, because they're going to be physical series too. So, and we've seen this with the Knicks too. I think a fully healthy Knicks team would have already gotten through to the finals a couple times, maybe, possibly. So it's going to be a battle. Predicting this is tough. I think we're going to have some 7-game series. We had a lot of 7-game series last year. You know, Indy and New York, and then Indy and Denver. I mean, sorry, Indy and who'd they beat? Who beat them? The Thunder. Yeah, Indy and Thunder. Yeah, I think we're going to see a really deep Eastern Conference playoffs, and it's going to come down to does Jalen turn an ankle again at the wrong moment? Who knows? Does Evan Mobley?
The Cavs had Evan Mobley injuries, and last year's Garland. He's not there now, but injuries have been a story of the postseason in the last few years.
Yeah. It's interesting too. How does Cade Cunningham, now that he's sort of in the spotlight, how's he respond in the playoffs? Because he goes a little hot and cold. If he went on a Tyrese Halliburton like run this year, then Detroit's going to be the team. So this is tough, man. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, listen, I know obviously you have the Knicks bias, but this is going to be a hard one to predict in the East.
Yeah, I came into the year way confident the Knicks were going to come out. I don't have that confidence today, even though the Knicks play much better. And there was a stretch where I actually did not think they would. Now, they've played a lot better. They won 9 out of 10, and it's starting to look more like the Knicks team I expected. But, yeah the East is a bear. What do you think about the West? Is this still the OKC Invitational? Or is there, you know, I know we talk about Wemby and those Spurs, and they've had their number a little bit this year. Can Wemby or someone else challenge them, you feel like?
I mean, no, I don't think Wemby and the Spurs are ready. I don't think the Rockets are going to quite get it all together on the same page. I would like to see that, but you never know what you're going to get with the Rockets. I think Denver has lost too much over the last couple of years. So yeah, OKC Invitational is a good way to put it. If I had to pick, I mean, there's no way I pick a team to beat them in 7. If assuming Shea's healthy, obviously. Do you have a dark horse that could knock them off?
I'm
and
not
by the way,
counting.
We didn't even say the Lakers. We did not say.
Yeah, and I don't think that deserves to be in that conversation. I think people have forgotten how dangerous Denver still is in the postseason. And I think they forgot how many problems they gave OKC in the playoffs last season. Remember, that's a 7-game series that Aaron Gordon pops his hamstring in Game 6, and he's playing on basically a torn hamstring, and they got blown out in Game 7. I think because the Game 7 was such a blowout, I think people are like, oh, well, that's it. I'm like, wait a minute, there were some games where a couple swings go one way, Denver's up 3-1, and OKC's really on the brink. I think because the finals became such a war that we kind of forgot the road that OKC took to get there. I think the Denver Nuggets are still, they've had a lot of injuries, and we'll talk about teams getting healthy. Like, they need Cam Johnson, and they need Aaron Gordon to get healthy. If they are relatively healthy, I still think that's another 7-game war. That's the only team I look at and say that I would worry about that matchup, because I still don't think that the Thunder have a great matchup for Jokic. I think he's too skilled for Hartenstein. I think he's too big for Holmgren. So I think he can get whatever he wants. And Jamal Murray, who's always been a great playoff player, but is now also taking that into the regular season, made his first All-Star game this year. He seems to have also taken another step. And this is a guy who's already a championship guy. He's not going to be in a series afraid of the Thunder, right? Like, he's seen, great teams, and he's done it all. So that would be the one team I think, if you're going to say who could stop the Thunder, I think the Thunder may have got a little lucky that Aaron Gordon didn't play last year. Otherwise, I think Game 7 would have been a tough game to win on even at home. Well,
listen, can the Nuggets win it all without Michael Porter Jr. remains to be seen. I still like MPJ.
Listen, he's having a great year. I mean, there were some people saying he should have made the playoffs. Numbers. Yeah, I know. Great numbers. Yeah. I had a friend tell me that, is this going to be the most irrelevant 50, 40, 90 season in NBA history? Because he's right on the precipice. He's right near 50% for field goals. He's right. I think he's at 39% from 3. The free throws is the problem. I think he's at like 83, 82. But, I mean, it's not out of the question. He could get it up there. But, yeah, I mean, his offensive numbers, you look at them and you're like, how is he doing this? This is incredible. And he's doing it almost primarily jump shots. But the only thing about him, though, is that, like, he's better suited in this role than him being with the Nuggets, where his shots are limited and they need him to do other intangible things. He doesn't want to do defense and rebound. He wants to just let it fly.
Well, he confidence was a big thing with him. I think Joker was, there were some times where Joker passed him the ball, and you could see him not wanting to pass him the ball. And I think when MPJ was hot with Denver, he was a good weapon. But he's a guy, I kind of play like this. If you're confident, then you can hit your shots. But the second you start to doubt yourself, they're not going to work. And now that he's on a lesser team, he's the man. EJ, when you're at a park and there's like 4 scrubs around you, you're like, oh my God, I'm just going to let it fly. And you might lose the game, but you shoot really well. I think that's what's happening here. He's just loose. Where in Denver, I thought his confidence came and went, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you're like, all right, we're gonna lose, but this is gonna be fun. Because you're gonna get a lot of shots up. Andrew Perloff joining me here, and I gotta ask you one last thing, because you were at a couple of last things, but one last thing on sports. You were at the Senior Bowl, and I want to ask you about that, Because any details that stood out from the Senior Bowl, anything you heard that was really interesting coming into this draft? I think this draft, it kind of, I think people look at Fernando Mendoza. I think they've warmed up to him being like, okay, this guy really is maybe a franchise quarterback after what he did in the college playoff. But I still think, okay, the rest of the draft, though, people are kind of down on. What was your impression of how NFL people were feeling about this draft? Because there's going to be stars here somewhere. You can't have a draft with a bunch of guys who are average guys. You would think there are going to be some good players, but it seems like there's a lot of folks that have been down on this year's draft overall.
Absolutely. So the funny thing is, at the Senior Bowl, nobody talks about the players who are at the Senior Bowl for the most part. Because the quarterbacks were not there. Pavia is very short. There's no way around that. Nussmeier looked healthy-ish, but he was not enough. He was probably the best quarterback there, and not quite enough to really be a starter candidate. A lot of talk about next year. Sorry, it feels like everyone's going to wait for next year, including your Jets. Dante Moore coming back, Mensa, obviously Arch. So I think it's all about next year's draft.
Yeah, I think that's become a lot of the conversation. Dante Moore pulling out of the draft. Well, not pulling out. He just never jumped in. But I got to give him some credit. You would have thought your obvious lock to be the number 2 pick in the draft. And I think he made the right decision. I think if he goes to the Jets, who knows how that goes. We know with the Jets and what they do with quarterbacks, it probably doesn't go well. And I think watching him this season, and I was actually very high on Dante Moore. I was actually making the case he should go over Fernando Mendoza, and I actually like Mendoza too. But watching him more, it's like, oh, this guy needs another year. He needs another year to get his body right. I think he needs another year also of just seeing defenses and preparing. I was surprised he made the move, but I kind of commend him because you don't see guys do that. Do you think this is the beginning of more guys making that decision because of NIL? Because he is going to get paid very handsomely. Arch, too.
Arch went back. Yeah. There's a difference there. But Dante Moore was only going to be 20 at the day of the draft. That's too young. And he didn't have enough starts. The NFL knows you need 12. You need 2 seasons to start. I think you're right. Going to the Jets would have been dicey. Sorry, EJ. I just think that he knew that he was not going to necessarily succeed. There's so much data on getting college starts before you get to the pros. And I think with the NIL money, you're not panicked about getting into that contract cycle. He'll make a ton of money right now. Honestly, I think Mensa could have gone pro too. I think a lot of guys went back. It is definitely the trend. There's no doubt about it. And it's just a weak quarterback class. I think Ty Simpson will probably go Kenny Pickett area, 20. I do not see it. I think he's a project. After that, I just don't see, you're going to get a guy in the 5th round the kid from Arkansas, Taylor Green or something. It's not. There's going to be projects, which is a bummer because there are a lot of teams that need a quarterback this year. That was a lot of the talk of the Senior Bowl. Where are the quarterbacks? That was sort of the overall message I got. Yeah, the D linemen are awesome. David Bailey's awesome. Ruben Bain is a monster. There's so much positivity. People love Caleb Downs. They're thrilled about Jeremiah Love. He is hot right now.
Okay.
But quarterbacks, the absence of quarterbacks was probably the biggest topic.
Andrew Perloff joining me. I gotta ask you, the people. I asked Maggie a couple weeks ago. I gotta ask you, the people want to know what may be coming next. Is there something coming next for the people? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing. How a lot of people here in the comments are happy to see you. You got Matthew DeGraves, who used to be in our chat. He comes in my chat all the time saying, "What's up, McLovin?" He's excited. John Lean still asking. He wants you to drive to San Antonio still.
We're working on that. We're working on that.
People were happy to see you, Pearl. So they just want to know what's been going on with you.
Maggie and I have our agents, Lee Steinberg and Drew Rosenhaus, working on the paperwork. It has now come down to contractual issues. We're in arbitration. We're held up on a couple of details around that, but Maggie and I just spent a long time talking yesterday. It is coming. I'm so sorry for the wait, and we're gonna start the party again. I promise you.
There you go. You heard it from himself, Andrew Perloff. Andrew Perloff, my friend, it's so good to see you. It's great to talk shop.
I know.
I miss these mornings. This was our morning for all these years.
I know. Why are we only doing this on camera? Well, you know what it was. Okay, you know how I am. The Super Bowl's over now. Now I'm going to jump in on NBA and college in a really annoying way, and I'm going to be bothering you on text. Yeah. By the way, I know you led with Darren Peterson. I want to talk about. I can't do it now because I got to run, but I got to talk about Kale Wilson at some point. I think. Oh, the NBA. I'm getting a little infatuated. We have a lot to. Can you have me back on to do an NBA in college? Because
whenever you want, bro. It's open invitation for you. We will have you here as many times as you want to be on. I'm doing 2 shows a day, so it opens up the gambit for whenever you're available. Pretty much, I'm doing live, so you can definitely jump on. We definitely got to talk NBA more and some college basketball. I keep saying best NBA draft in my opinion since '03. I'm telling people. I've been saying it on this show. This draft. That's why if you're on college basketball, a lot of people have gotten out on college basketball for very different reasons. I understand. We talked a little bit about it. We're gonna talk about Bediako in a second, but I mean, this is the year if you're into the NBA, watch college basketball because there are studs everywhere.
Yeah. You know what? Again, I gotta run. We could do a half hour on Boozer. Boozer can't jump, but I don't know if that means anything. His dad couldn't jump either.
That's true. Hereditary.
But that doesn't mean he's not awesome. Anyway, all right. Anyway, we have a lot to do there.
Yeah, we'll have you back, Pearl. Andrew Perloff, thank you so much for joining, man. I love you. I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, I love you, bud. It's so good to talk. Thank you for having me on.
All right, you got it, man. Oh, man, was that awesome. How about that? Andrew Perloff joining 40 Days, 40 Nights from Maggie and Perloff. And again, like I keep telling y'all, I tell you every time. People ask me what's going on with Maggie Perloff. I was at the Fan this weekend. I'm hosting on the WFAN New York, and obviously Maggie Gray hosted there for a long time, and it's not a spoiler, but insider scoop on like just how the business worked at Odyssey. It still works at Odyssey, I guess. But the studio where WFAN do their shows is, if you discount the fact that you gotta leave the control room to get to the next room, is like literally maybe 5 feet away from where Infinity Sports Network and Maggie and Perloff studios were. So, obviously the great folks on the Fan, shout out to Boomer and Gio. They're a little further down, but still on the same floor, and maybe 30 feet away, 40 feet away. Boomer and Gio, Evan and Tiki, now Carden and Roberts, previously BT and Sal. Shout out to BT and Sal. Shout out to Brand Tierney. I want to talk about BT in a second because he actually gave me some words of encouragement. I tell you, like when I do this show, I just kind of freewheel a little bit. But who else am I missing? Keith McPherson obviously was doing nights. Now you got Lou Gower, and of course, obviously C-Mac previously overnights, now doing the Carton show. Did I say Carton and Roberts earlier? I definitely did say that. That was a mishap. I meant to say Carton show, of course, with Chris Carton and Craig Carton. I'm sorry, and Chris McMonagle. So I'm at WFAN, and the folks there want to know because we all were still kind of a family, even though we're not working in the same station. We're like, oh, what's going on, Maggie Bro? What's going on? I'm like, listen, something's coming, something's happening. They're working through what they're working through, and when they're ready to drop, I know that they will drop, and I know you guys will love it, and it's gonna be dope, and because they're Maggie and Perloff. So you get to hear from them. I know, people are like, I want it now. I want it. Like sometimes some of these things take time, right? But you heard it from Pearl. They're going to work on something. When it comes out, it's going to be super dope, and they're going to announce it. And I already kind of have – Pearl's going to be back because he just – him. He just wants to come on and just – let's talk more about some college basketball, some NBA. I felt bad. I helped him way longer than I wanted to. I hope he's not late for something or because I was like, typically these spots that you do a half hour, 20 minutes or so. We were on for almost an hour. But that's if you want to know, again, the relationships we have, and we all have great relationships, but that's kind of what happens with me and Pearl. That once we get going talking about sports, we could probably talk for 4, 5, 6 hours, like no joke, because anything could come up. And aside, I'm like, oh, it's be 20, 30 minutes, keep him, get him in, let him go about the rest of his day, and we're way longer. He's like, I gotta go, but I got so much more to talk about. And so we're gonna have Pearl back. It's kind of been a standing. Do I want to say this? Yeah, I think a standing invitation and standing expectation that once they're ready to announce whatever's gonna come, they'll be here together, Maggie and Perloff, to talk about it. I don't know if it's going to be the exclusive scoop. I would love for that to be the exclusive scoop. Maybe before they announce anything, the first thing you hear is from us right here in 40 Days and 40 Nights. If that's not the case, though, shortly after that announcement, they've already said that once that happens, they will be here to talk about it. So you will have your answers about what's going on with the future of the show. Again, I know how much you guys have enjoyed what they brought every morning on the Infinity Sports Network. I know I certainly enjoyed working with them. They're, again, not just great hosts and people who can put together a great show and a great tandem. They're just great people, and getting to know them and getting to know their, families a little bit, just from adjacent, not like, obviously, I've met, obviously, Maggie's husband, haven't met Sarah yet, but, just getting to know kind of their lives and things they go through and everything. It's just been truly the experience of a lifetime. So I'm excited for what they got coming next, man. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. Andrew Perloff joining me here on 40 Days and 40 Nights. You guys, you got to get after him after the the San Antonio trip. That, of all the things I think people hold still from the show, and most people have great experiences with the show, which is, again, I think warms all of our hearts. That's the one stickler I think people have for our show that I've seen in the comment section, which is the bets that didn't get paid off. And Perloff is at the top of the list with the San Antonio trip because it was such a bold prediction. He put himself out there because I was like, Wemby looks really good. I don't know how you can say that guy's not going to Rookie of the Year. But he told you he's working on it. He's going to try to figure out a way to make it done. And I've actually talked to him about like some of the things he's thought about in terms of how to make that happen. So it's not like BS. He is trying to figure out how to do that. So, it did seem, I'll be honest again, I could peel the curtain a little bit more, especially now that iteration of the show is over. I can peel the curtain more on some things. And Maggie said it on air, but like we did feel like it would have been insensitive to like when Pop got really sick and we saw him recently. Shout out to Greg Popovich. It was super amazing to see him back out on the court, walking the court, getting the love from the fans. But we see that, the stroke definitely physically in terms of, the stroke will take a lot of damage out of any human, right? And he's dealt with some physical and health, issues. We really did think it would be insensitive to make like this whole big trip. That was, going to be, we know Pearl, right? It's going to be fun. It's going to be comedy. They're going to have all these different. We thought it was insensitive to do that while Pop was going through what he was going through health wise. So we didn't want to do it during that time. The year before, obviously, when we had the blood clots, which we didn't know that was going to happen. So that was 2 years that got kind of weird, where it was like he misses time and then Pop gets really sick. Actually, that was the same year because this is his third year in the NBA, right? So we thought, okay, we'll do it early in the season. He gets blood clot. Pop gets sick. It's okay. Maybe a little later when it's not as sensitive. Then Wemby's out for the year. So, and then our show ends. So there's not something to job. He does want to do it, and I'm sure they'll definitely figure out a way to do that. But that was a little unfortunate how things went down. But yeah, the bets are the thing. So Perloff's San Antonio bet number 1. Maggie's Waffle House bet is up there too, where she's supposed to eat as many waffles. She has 24 hours to stay at a Waffle House, but she can eat however many waffles she wants to cut down on the time, which is kind of like the remix of what they do for like fantasy football losers. If you finished last year in the league, I think this was one of the best that they had. We had a Waffle House waitress call us, I think, or someone who's at a Waffle House who called us from the Waffle House, who was able to put a manager or waitress on the phone and be like, is this something you guys be allowed to do? It was one of my favorite moments in the Maggie Perloff show. That's one. That one was kind of recent. Like, that was just this past year, right? No, so that wasn't like it was super long ago. But that was another one. People say, hey, you didn't get the Waffle House bet. And again, they're going to be doing work again. So it's not like you won't be able to get after them and make sure they do those bets. The third one is me related. And I fully acknowledge that. I think my excuse is probably the best excuse of them all. I know I may be biased, but I will say that. Was that I had to do quote unquote Pete drills. First it was gassers that became Pete drills, which to be honest, I really preferred the gassers because I know what that is. Pete Bellotti, of course, our former associate producer and board operator and former executive producer of the Pat Boyle show. Pete likes me, so I don't think he would want to kill me. Like, if he, like, not to say he doesn't like any of us, but he likes me, I think, the most of anybody on the show. He has a familiar relationship with Bogus. So, like, take that away. Him and Bogus are, like, they've been together forever, right? So, but he messes with Bogus. They mess with each other. It's a weird thing. Take Bogus side. I think of the other rest of the people on the show, I think he, like, likes me the most. So, I don't think he would kill me. But he's also Pete Bellotti. So, I didn't want to. I was not looking forward to subjecting myself to whatever he had in his head. He said, hey, what I have may be less intense than gassers. I love Pete. I just don't believe him. But either way, nonetheless, there was that bet where I was supposed to do that because I said there would be no more than, I might have said 3 quarterbacks drafted in the first round the year when McCarthy and Nix, all those guys went. It was either 3 or 4, and I was dead wrong. It was bad. I mean, it was 5, right? It wasn't even close. And they were gone like the first 12 picks. And I was like, this sucks. And I hate that bet because that was like I don't want to make excuses, but I did feel like it was kind of like a throwaway thought I had that I felt pretty good about at the time. So people were like, "Wait, we'll have something on it." I was like, "Why not?" I do think right now that we're overrating Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy. Oh, excuse me, Nix and Penix were the guys where I was like, I'm not convinced those guys are first round picks. So I'm pretty sure I kept it to 3. So, or maybe I said 4. I said maybe I'll give you 1, but one of those guys is going in the second round. And I was obviously dead wrong. So, but I also didn't like foresee, like I kind of didn't think about how valuable teams think that 5th-year option is if you take a shot on a quarterback. So I was wrong. I just flat out wrong. There's no excuse for why I was wrong. But I'm just like trying to think of like what I didn't calculate. And those guys most of them end up being really good. So it was just a miss. So I had to do these Pete drills or gassers or both. It was kind of unclear. I tore my patella tendon playing kickball. Look, I'm able to get around. My knee feels really good. Like I work out. I'm able to jog now on the treadmill, which is great. It is a gruesome injury. Like my leg still isn't 100%. I never tried to sprint. I don't feel comfortable trying to sprint, but I have been able to jog at a pretty slow pace, and I jog on the treadmill for about 20 minutes when I get on the treadmill, so that's good. But I don't know if I can do gassers or whatever Pete drills are. So that's a physical limitation. I've already said though. I've put it out there. I will do some kind of replacement for like a physical activity to get off of this bet. Like I will pay my bets. I'm not worried about that or anything. It's just the last thing I want is to do a bet for Maggie Perloff show and pop my knee again or tear something else doing something because of a bet. Because of that, I now have a serious injury that I'm still recovering from. So I know that's one of the things people kind of hold their hats on, but I will say again, you will have those opportunities to get at them, and you can always still get at me about the bets because of what's been going on with the show and what they got planned. I see here John Lean saying, as a group, we let your bets slide. You just need Perloff and Maggie to get to it. Yeah, I think that's fair. I know, again, it sounds biased, but again, I am not capable of running gassers. That is not possible. Will I be capable maybe next year or by the summer? See how hard I keep pushing it at the gym. I am, again, shout out to me, I guess. I don't know what to say. I am able to jog. Slow, though. Like, I'm doing like a 4, which is like some people a power walk. I know that's not that fast. But trust me, for me, I feel like I'm flying considering I could not jog at all for all those years or for all those months. I'm doing a 4 miles per hour on the treadmill. I've been able to go a little north of 4. I think I went to like 4.2, 4.3 maybe. It was the fastest I went. I couldn't stay on that for a while, but I was able to do it and feel okay. A lot of it is just knee stability and leg stability and leg strength. No one tells you in terms of rehab, like, I don't deal with pain anymore, really. It's not painful, like walking around. My knee doesn't feel the same. I'm kind of resigned to the fact that, my knee's never going to feel the same, which is sad, but it's whatever. People deal with this kind of stuff. It's less pain. It's just stability and strength of my knee and my quads is like the thing that's like really hard to get back. Like I give so much love to these athletes now that, they deserve all the credit in the world for being able to have these severe injuries and even dare to try to get back and play football, play basketball where you're jumping and running nonstop, and soccer and baseball. I can't believe they do this stuff. Can't believe they do. I know they have $1 million training staffs to get them through it, and they're rehabbing not 2 or 3 times a week like the regular folk, but like every single day, sometimes twice a day to get right. But still, even the mental fortitude to get through that, I respect them just because of what I went through. So I appreciate it. Again, I would be willing to do something else, but not that, because I just don't think I am capable. Is that Wendy's going to be a force if he can stay healthy for a decade plus? Totally agree with that as well, which will give Perloff plenty of time to drive down to San Antonio and apologize to him for saying that he was going to be a bust and that he would not win Rookie of the Year. Yeah, real quick, I mentioned BT real quick. Yeah, I want to shout out BT. I know BT's been doing BT Unleashed. It's his new YouTube show. Brandon Tierney, of course, was a staple on CBS Sports Radio before it became Infinity Sports Network as well. And I think I talk about, again, I literally talked about yesterday, inspirations for like why I'm doing this. And I say I can give you a different answer every day. I want to shout out BT because, you know, his show was kind of coming to an end. It was already announced, I think, at that point that Craig was coming over to WFAN. And I got to run into BT right prior to a show we were doing, actually. So it was kind of ironic. It was like, oh, we're all going to be out of a job here soon, right? It was kind of a morbid kind of meet and greet. But I've always had a lot of respect for Brandon Tierney. He's someone that he's the only radio show that I've ever called into and actually been on the air for. I've called shows, but then been scared and like not done it. But he's a call that actually made a call. This was, I think he was on ESPN radio. And I like actually called him on the phone and was like, I want to talk to him about like, he's talking about like all-time Big East team. I think he was doing it was like a segment like, if you had to do an all-time Big East basketball team, like who would be your 5? And I wanted to call up, I wanted to make a case for Walter Berry for St. John's. And he's obviously a St. John's grad. And I've always had, you know, as a kid even, I used to listen to BT all the time when he was on with Stephen A. Smith or he was just doing his solo shows on ESPN. I've always been a fan. And so it was great to get to work with him and be in the same office as him and get to chat with him. I really wanted to get him on my Knicks podcast. I never got to while I was doing Orange and Blue Bloods. And I don't know if the time is going to work because I think we stream around the same times for this. But I would love to get BT here as well. But I remember, you know, BT was just talking and you know, he was giving me a lot of words of encouragement as well. He's like, listen, you're doing great. You know, the fact that you're getting on the fan at your age is, you know, not that I'm super young, but, you know, you're getting the reps that you need to continue to stay in this business. But he told me, man, he's like, the big thing about this time period is you got to do your own stuff. You got to be able to create. The internet's here for us. The digital age is here for us. Like, we can't, you know, just rely on just, you know, big companies or big corporations to get out your content. There's no reason why you can't create for yourself. And I already did and do because of what I do with New Generation Media and what we do with New Generation Podcast Network. But that was probably the real like thing of like, yeah, like I need to really up when this thing ends with Maggie and Perloff show on Infinity, I need to really up my game with whatever the digital stuff I want to put out. And I want it to be really good. I want it to be top tier, and I want it to be really fun for the fans. And those words I got from one of his last days there, one of my last days at Infinity. It was just a really good conversation to have. It was short, you know, it was probably like 5-minute chat, really. It wasn't even super long, but just the words were pointed and they were advice that I really could hold on to. And words of encouragement to be like, hey, this isn't, because this is ending, it's not the end of you. And in fact, there's never really going to be an end of you as long as we're in this world where you can always start your own YouTube channel or start your own podcast. Like, you could always be creating, right? And the quality of it and how well you do could mean that your platform could be the only platform you need, or maybe it ends up being the launching pad for you going somewhere else. So just shout out to Brandon Tierney, man, good dude, and gave some real words of encouragement at a time that I think, you know, we all could have used them, and I'm really appreciative of him for that. Anyway, awesome stuff happening here with Andrew Perloff joining me. 40 days, 40 nights. If you missed Perloff, you're jumping in now, you're like, oh crap, I came on, Perloff was here. He was here for a long time. Like, I gave y'all, like, when Maggie was here, it was more of I had a little bit of a time constraint because, of course, I had Fleas coming up right after to talk Jets. Maggie was here to talk, Bills. And hopefully I can have like a longer extended conversation with Maggie on here too. But Maggie, I probably did about 20 minutes, I think, maybe 25 minutes, I think, which was great. And that's a lot of time. That's a long time for a spot. But Pearl was here, I think, for like an hour, maybe 40, 50 minutes. Definitely more than 40, at least 50 minutes. He did his thing. He gave you all the takes in the world. He gave you his thoughts, gave you his insight from what he was hearing on Radio Row, what he was hearing at the Senior Bowl, thoughts on the Eagles, thoughts on the NBA, a lot. So, of course, you could always rewind this stream if you're watching live and check out that interview with Andrew Perloff. I feel weird calling it an interview. It's like, that's my friend, so it's like a conversation. But, you know, for the sake of keeping it professional, so to speak, my interview with Andrew Perloff. And also, of course, you can catch, all these episodes on the podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network. If you're not able to watch, you're like, oh, man, I want to watch that, but, you know, I'm going to be driving all afternoon. I'm going to be on a run. I'm doing whatever. I'm on the move. You can always pop on the podcast. It gets posted right after the show. This is 2 days in a row. I don't remember if I posted yesterday. I think I did. I did it so fast that I just completely sometimes forget if I posted. I'm pretty sure I did post yesterday. But you can catch that wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn to catch that full conversation with Perloff. If you cannot watch, of course, the episodes also get posted on YouTube. I got a great question here. I'm glad my friend Ariel posted this. See, we're on top of things. We ain't forgetting nothing. All right, shout out to my guy Marquito, great dude, loves baseball, asking, when are you getting into baseball previews? Excited for pitchers and catcher reporting. He says Cather's there, but I'm not going to get on a typo. I do typos all the time. And they drive me crazy. I got a great guest for you if you're really excited for baseball previews tomorrow. I told y'all this week, I'm bringing the heat for this week. Andrew Perloff here on Tuesday. Who else is dropping this week? Pitchers and catchers for the Yankees starts tomorrow. And who would be a great person to talk Yankee baseball with to get ready for pitchers and catchers? The great Keith McPherson joins 40 Days, 40 Nights tomorrow morning. Back-to-back days, 2 monster guests. Round of applause to the good brother, Keith McPherson. I always use the good brother like Charlamagne the God. He always says, that's a good brother. Keith McPherson is a good brother, man. And he's going to be joining 40 Days, 40 Nights tomorrow to talk Yankees baseball because pitchers and catchers will be in tomorrow. He's really become like one of the ultimate Yankee fans in terms of just, what he does with, digital stuff. Obviously, the career he is launched with WFAN and him doing his night show on WFAN where he did a phenomenal job. And, I've told Keith this already, so I feel comfortable saying it here. And it may be good to talk about it here rather than wasting time with it tomorrow so you guys can get as much Yankee talk as possible to get ready for baseball season. But I can't say enough about just how much of a support system and support person he's been for my career and for a lot of young creators and young people wanting to do this industry. Like, he's someone I think has understood that he is someone that is going to be an inspiration to a lot of people because he's a young person that really has embraced doing sports content in a new age way. And I really appreciate him just for kind of understanding that responsibility and understanding that and actually really embracing that. And when it has come to bigging me up, bigging up other folks, he's now that he's not doing the full-time show with WFAN, you see him do a lot of stuff where he's trying to get content creators together and really help other folks, get put on. One of my former AAU coaches, the great Doc Naselli, who coached so many great players, Jay Williams being one of them. He had a great saying where he said, once you go up the elevator, it's always important to make sure you send down that elevator to get to other people that are down there at the bottom where you were. And that's like the whole purpose of life. And it's something I try to hold on to. I'm not someone who's at the penthouse floor. Obviously, I'm currently unemployed in my bedroom doing a stream right during the middle of the day. But like I feel like I'm someone who has accomplished some things in this industry, and I try to help as many people as I can. And I think what Keith has done in terms of doing that for other folks and not, some people may hold that light and want to hold it real tight and be like, oh, okay, now I'm here, no one else gets it, and just kind of a self-preservation aspect. He just doesn't. He's never been that for me, and I think people who also have worked with him or talked to him that he's not that kind of person. So I appreciate him because he's a good brother. That's why I always say the good brother Keith McPherson, because he is a good brother. And he was one of the people when I didn't write a list. I should have wrote a list. I didn't write an actual list, but I kind of had the mental list of like who are the must people I need to have come on the 40 Days and 40 Nights. Keith McPherson was among the first names. I was like, I got to make sure he can get on. And I'm excited he's going to be on. So Yankee baseball, up and early in the morning. We're going to talk plenty of Yankee baseball with Keith McPherson tomorrow and other baseball. Obviously, he's, of course, he's a host of WFAN. He's still a host. He hosts on the weekend, so it's not like he's gone. So you hear him talking all over the sports as well. So we'll get into other New York sports with Keith. But Keith McPherson will join me. I think, I got to look at the time again. Actually, I have it on my schedule or my calendar. I'm pretty sure it's 9:15, I think we agreed to. A little bit of a weird time. Part of the reason why he left, obviously, WFAN was to be, a more present father, which I think is also a beautiful thing as well. Because a lot of folks, wouldn't give up this spot or give up this world that he was living to be there for his family. That's what he wanted to do. And at 9:15, let me make sure I was right. 9:15. He's got to take care of his kid. He's got to take his kid to school, I think. That's why it's a little later. So it'll be later in the show. It'll probably be kind of like the last segment of the show. It'll be the last probably half hour, 45 minutes, whatever. We'll just ride with Keith the rest of the way. And he'll be on tomorrow. So that'll be a lot of fun. And we'll see who else comes on this week. Again, the second half of 40 Days to 40 Nights, we got to rev this up, man. We gotta keep pushing, you know. And I want to make sure this series that I'm doing, because it's kind of like a contained series, I want to make sure it's as good as possible. So I want to make sure that, you know, I can get in as many great guests as possible. There's some fun people that are on deck potentially for next week as well. So we're revving this thing up. One last housekeeping note. Like I said earlier in the show, I want to do an ask me anything. I kept using the word anxiety. I kept trying to figure out what the word was. And there is some anxiety to putting that out there. You want to do an AMA because some people may just not care. The word I was trying to figure out, though, that was the right word, is I'm self-conscious about it. That's the word I was trying to figure out. I kept saying anxiety. It's like, yeah, I have anxiety, but it's something different, too. There's another word that describes how I feel about trying to do this. I'm very self-conscious about it because, again, you put out, hey, ask me anything. If nobody cares or nobody asks you, you're like, oh, I guess nobody gives a crap, right? So I want to do an Ask Me Anything. Again, I got more questions. I think I'm going to, I kept saying, oh, I want to do it Friday. I want to do it Monday. I actually think I'm going to see if I can do it Wednesday nights. So it gives you plenty of time. If you go to my Instagram, you can just, Action EJ, my story that's up from last night, should be up by now. You can go and type in a question, and I will answer that question. It could be sports related. It could be pop culture related. It could be just personal related about my life. Whatever you want, you can ask. Don't make it weird. Don't make it super controversial. Like, I'm probably not going to give you my thoughts on, like, you know, where the GDP is, or that's not controversial. But you know what I mean. I'm not giving you like some crazy political takes or things like that. But otherwise, whatever you want, free game, and we'll do it on the show, and we'll ask the questions live, and obviously a lot of this comment section becomes not ask me anything because I answer most questions in the comment section anyway. But I want to do like an actual like scheduled segment that's like curated that we can get all the questions out, whether it's about Maggie Perloff show, about my career, again about sports or whatever you want. Because there's some things I may not hit. I try to hit as many things as possible. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this in like this freewheeling way. But the reality is I'm not going to hit everything. So whatever I don't hit, I want to make sure I get to. That you guys get to hear my answers on them. So if you go to my comment section on my Instagram, Action EJ, you can write in a question. You can also go to my what's it called? You can also go to my Twitter. And there's a post about it as well that you can comment. One person already commented a question that we'll answer on Wednesday. And you can also tweet at me, EJ_Stewart. Like I'll put my Twitter handle up here so you can see. You can just tweet at me as well and just ask me at EJ, and then just say whatever you want, and I'll add that to the list, and we'll answer them all in a couple of days. So I'm really looking forward to that. Well, actually, not a couple of days. It feels like a couple of days to me because it's a couple of shows. But Wednesday night we will do the Ask Me Anything. So by now I definitely will have enough questions to continue. Let's race through the rest of these questions. These stories before we get out of here, man. I know I got a little sentimental about everything, but that's seeing my guy Perloff gets me there. So love him. So happy he got to come on the show. Let's keep it to basketball. I mentioned this prior, but Charles Bediako, who's the center for the Alabama Crimson Tide, who had played a couple of games. He had a game recently where he was being chanted G League dropout from the road crowd. He came back to college basketball. This guy played from 2021 to 2023, and then went pro and played in the G League, and then tried to come back and say, I want to play more college basketball. And people are like, how is this possible? Well, there have been so many more examples of guys really testing the envelope when it comes to what is professional basketball and what are the rules for which pros get to play. Essentially, what the argument has been with this has been there are a lot of, like, especially in the last 10 years for sure, but it's been going on forever, where players that are coming from overseas, Europe, Australia, whatever the case may be, they can play professional basketball, but as long as they're, age eligible to enter college basketball, they are allowed to come back and play college basketball. And what you're seeing now are players who have played college basketball and decided to go pro, and maybe they didn't get drafted. Maybe they did get drafted, but they didn't play in the NBA per se. But maybe they played in the G League, or maybe they played overseas because they were a stash person, or maybe they played in the summer league. They're saying, well, wait a minute, that's a professional league. Just like the Euro League is a professional league, or just like the Turkish league is a league, just like the ACB is a league. Like, how come those guys getting exemptions and we're not? You know what? We're going to take this thing to court and we're going to try to get out there and play. which is what's been happening. So James Najee, who is still, he is, the draft rights belong to the New York Knicks. He's a college basketball player right now. He's playing for Baylor, even though he's already a player that's been drafted. And he already has draft rights that right now currently belong to the Knicks. So if you're a Knicks fan, I'm sure there are some Knicks fans. I haven't really been locking in so much to what he's been doing since he got back to basketball, but playing in college. But there are people who are like, oh, let's watch this Knicks prospect, James Najee, which is insane. It sounds like what we see sometimes in college baseball, where the College Baseball World Series is happening and the draft's already happened. Therefore, you're seeing like guys who eventually will be going to their minor league systems playing like, oh, that's the the Seattle Mariners prospect who's now playing for Vanderbilt in the College Baseball World Series. Is insane. And that we were accustomed to that in baseball. We're not accustomed to that at all when it comes to basketball in the NBA. Charles Bediako, again, he really kind of was pushing the envelope because he is someone that had played in the G League. And he was trying to still say, I should be allowed to still play in the NBA. And the NCAA, of course, they blocked him. They're like, no, bro, you can't play. And he's all right, then I'll sue. So he sued them. He got an injunction that allowed him to then get out in the court and play. He said, well, he's got an injunction. There's no ruling. So Alabama was like, we can use his size. So they just dropped him out there. He started playing. But now we know that this is not going to continue. He has been ruled eligible. And now his college career as written by, shout out to Myron Metcalf. He's one of my favorite. He's like an underrated, really good reporter. He does college basketball for ESPN. Good takes, good. He's good on social media. He's just fun. This is a fun lead. He's like, Charles Bediako's college basketball career is over again after an Alabama circuit judge denied his motion for a preliminary injunction ending a 7-footer center season at Alabama. So again, Bediako, who left Alabama to go to the NBA draft, he signed a 2-way NBA contract. He's played 3 years in the G League. And then decided this G League thing ain't working out for me. I'm going to go play college basketball. And the thing about it is, he is going to make or would have made more money playing for Alabama through NIL than he probably would playing in the G League. But those guys get nothing. Like, it's, he had a 2-way contract, so maybe he's making a little more. Maybe he's making 6 figures or making, whatever. But most of those guys are making nothing, basically. And he's like, I can go to college basketball and make $1 million maybe, or $800,000 or whatever. Like, I'd rather do that than play, like, play in big arenas and big spotlight, play on ESPN. Like, G League, you got to try to, good luck finding those games on television, on your cable markets or whatever. So I get from his standpoint why he's like, I have to go play college basketball, but this is absurd. And I do think we had Kendall on for Kendall Friday. I think the last time we spoke, he was saying, like, this is getting crazy with these guys deciding that, oh, yeah, we're going to go play NBA basketball or NBA adjacent basketball and try to go, then come back and play college. I told you a story about Amari Bailey, who is trying to, now this may take a big blow to that, but he's trying to get eligible to come back to college basketball after having played in NBA games. Guy who played in the NBA games said, I think I should be able to play college basketball. I'm going to sue and see if I can get back in. It's insane, and it opens the floodgates to what could this happen in football? Like, could a team decide, hey, you know what, that guy, he didn't get drafted in the NFL, or he did get drafted, but he didn't play that much. So let's bring a guy who's an NFL athlete. Let's put him on the University of Tennessee, something crazy. Like, this is what you could potentially be opening yourself up to. But this judge in Alabama had put a kibosh to this, and he said, I'm just going to say, no, we're not going to allow to do this. So he's no longer playing. So grand opening, grand closing for Charles Bediako, who got to play some games this year for Alabama. He was averaging 10 points a game this year, and 4 rebounds and 1.4 blocks in the 5 games he got to play. It's just a complete bizarre situation. The judge essentially ruled that Bediako did not have a reasonable expectation he would be allowed to return to college basketball when no other player has been granted eligibility under the same circumstances. Of course, he was trying to point to Najee as a reason why maybe he should have been allowed to come back, but the judge wasn't seeing this. They were like, nah, get out of here. And I'm sorry, like, I just, and it sucks that this has become such, what college basketball starting to become? And people are going to get mad about this who love college basketball, but I love college basketball, so that's why I'm saying it, because we got to save this sport. It's starting to become like boxing, where for a big fight, for a big event, yeah, people are going to show up and they're going to like it because it's people fighting. for March Madness, for the Final Four, people are going to show up and watch because it's March Madness in the Final Four. But the oddity and the absurdities that now are surrounding college basketball with the transfer portal, and then particularly now these guys who are 24, 25 years old, still playing through redshirt years and COVID years and all other different kinds of years. And now the absurdity of like, you know what, we could actually get a guy who played in the NBA or was drafted in the NBA today. Let's let this guy play college basketball. It's starting to become a circus. It's starting to become a clown show. Much like with boxing, with all the antics and all the weird judges and all those different things. Like it's starting to become like, yo, this is like a sideshow kind of sport. When it in its essence, it isn't. College basketball is still awesome. Again, I'm telling you, this is the year to watch with all these great athletes. But we're stuck talking about the Bidiakos and James Najis of the world. Like, this has been the biggest story in college basketball this year, or point shaving. Like, those have been some of the big stories. And, like, the fact that we have the greatest draft since 2003, I don't think it's still kind of cracked through yet for the majority of the people who watch sports and love sports, because we've been so, like, desensitized to the regular season. Everything's just about March Madness, so people aren't that closely paying attention the way they should, because we've devalued the NBA draft. Thanks, Adam Silver, for that. And now we have this storyline of guys who are trying to get to play college basketball to playing professionally, and trying to do this thing, oh, well, if you guys in Europe could do it, why can't I do it? Well, I think there's a big difference from guys in Europe or overseas who never played college basketball, who are coming to join and play in the NBA. Or excuse me, played college basketball. It's different from a guy who played in Australia or Europe or, you know, South America, who said, okay, I play professionally, but I never played college basketball. I'm going to play college basketball, and I'm 19 years old. I'm 20 years old. 'Cause that's the thing about these other countries, that you could be a professional at 15, 16 years old, so it's just different. You can't be, there are no 16, 15-year-old pros here. So they, in theory, these are kids that would have lost all eligibility before they even got to college age. So that's different than a player who left school. Like, I know there's some people saying, oh, what about overtime elite? And those guys have been allowed to play. I think that's fair. I'm fine with that. But, like, guys who left school, who were out of school, had 2 years, 1 year, however long, and then said, I am foregoing my eligibility so that I can enter the NBA draft. Sometimes some of these guys got drafted, some of the guys didn't, but then they go on to start their professional careers after, again, I will repeat, foregoing their college eligibility. And because their professional careers don't go the way they want, they say, oh, I want to change my mind. I want to go back to college and play. It's ridiculous. And I don't think anybody wants this. Like, I know these individual teams and the individual fan base was like, ooh, I can add James Najee. Ooh, I can add Charles Bidiaco. That could help our season. Like, I'm sure those fans for Alabama and Baylor are probably saying, yeah, let's hope that these guys can come back and help our teams win. But I think overall, like, in a vacuum, nobody wants this. I don't think people like seeing these 25 and 24-year-olds playing college basketball. I think that is also getting ridiculous, where these guys that have played all these years and they got hurt and they had blah, 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 all different kind of excuses so that they can continue to play. Like, and look, I'm not being biased. I mean, Gonzaga, one of our best players this year, is a 25-year-old kid who had multiple, not kid, man, who had, Grant, who had multiple things happen, injuries, transfers, COVID, all this other stuff, and started his career late. I think that, I hope, first of all, this is definitely kind of really shattered, like, any kind of illusion that the NCAA runs anything. The NCAA has lost all power. They are a toothless organization, and they're a clownish organization. So I'm not even here to really, like, defend the NCAA at all. But at a certain point, the rubber's got to meet the road at some point, and I'm glad somebody said, hey, like, we have to, like, a judge is like, hey, this is getting ridiculous. Like, you can't literally sign paperwork to forego eligibility and say, well, that paperwork doesn't matter because some European guys are able to play as pros, even though they never played college basketball. It'd be one thing if you had European guys that were playing college basketball, left to go to the pros, and they came back to play college basketball. I'd say, yeah, that's not fair. If those guys are allowed to play, then you should be allowed to play. This is a much different scenario. We have college basketball players that have left school and then decided, I'm going to come back after playing. Again, Amari Bailey has played in the NBA. Like, that is insane that he's even trying this. Bediako has played 3 years playing in the G League, which is the NBA's minor league system. Imagine if a minor league baseball player decided, I'm going to go back and play college basketball. Or college baseball, I'm sorry. You would never allow that. Like the guys that have gone back, like a Chris Wenke or Drew Henson, like those guys, they have played minor league baseball, but they couldn't go back and play college baseball. They were going to come back and play football. You got to play a different sport. And that's why you had like Chris Wenke, 27-year-old, playing, basketball. And I think Brandon Weeden was one of those guys too that played baseball for a little bit, but then came back to play football. I said basketball, I meant football. But Chris Wenke, won the Heisman after having a whole baseball run at 28 years old to try to play, college football. That's a different thing. If these guys want to come back and play tennis or play college football, like, all right, that's part of the rules. That's fine. They come back and say, I want to play the sport that I got rid of my eligibility for. It's nonsense. I think they're trying to use what's become the wild, wild west of the transfer portal, NIL, to try to skew the rules. But this is not something the fans actually want. I don't think anybody actually wants to see 25-year-olds playing for their school, like, or guys who played in the NBA coming back to play college basketball. It's insane. I can't believe we're even talking about this. But it's a reality that's happening in college sports, and they got to do something to fix it, man. I think it is awful. It's absolutely awful. So we'll see what happens with Bianco, but it seems like this is a blow to that effort. And I know the NCAA president, Charlie Baker, was like, finally common sense won at least some round, because they've been losing in almost every court case, it feels like. This was one where they won. I don't know if Bianco is going to be able to appeal or anything like that, but get this guy out of here, man. Go do what everyone has to do. If you can't make it as a professional, get that job application out, sharpen up that resume, and go get a real job. You can't just say I'm entitled to play college basketball for as long as I want and try to find a loophole in this. It's just not right. Not right at all. I've gone 2 hours. I feel like maybe I should hold some of this stuff I had for later. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to hold some of the other stories we had. And again, the beauty of this is we have 2 shows per day. So it allows me to, if we have stuff left over, we can talk about it on the next show. So that's what I'm going to do here. I know we got to talk some J. Cole. We got to talk some WWE stuff I have ready. There was a big fight in the NBA. I would mention the fight real quick. That's something that probably I shouldn't have mentioned tomorrow, or later rather. That fight in the NBA was crazy. And I want you guys to see these images. So you had 4 ejections in this game. This was the Hornets and Pistons. And you see Jalen Duren and Diabate. This is where this began. And those guys got into it. And this was not a hold me back kind of fight. There's kind of the beginning of this confrontation with these two. They were ejected in this fight. And you got then Diabate going after Jalen Duren. He was going after him. This was not, again, a hold me back situation. This was there were punches that were thrown in this scuffle. And then Isaiah Stewart came from the bench. I think this is what you're seeing here. He came from the bench onto the court, after Miles Bridges took a swing at Duren. He came from the bench and he got into it, and now him and Miles Bridges were throwing punches in this. This was just crazy. Here's another shot of Diabate trying to get after Duren. There's a punch. That was after that was actually before, I believe, Bridges threw the punch at Duren, which then made Bridges take a punch. I'm not sure if any shot cleanly landed, but this was a fight. This was not, again, your hold me back situation. So you had 4 guys get ejected. I would expect you'll see multiple suspensions from this. You don't see these kind of fights often in the NBA anymore. The NBA, after the Malice in the Palace and the stiff penalties that they handed out because of that, they said, we're not going to allow these guys to fight anymore. We can't. There was a time where you could fight and you could get suspended. You miss 5 games or whatever, but it was not like a suspension that was so debilitating where you wouldn't take the risk if you really were wanting to scrap. That's ended. Now they're like, hey, we can't. This is not good for our league if we have these kind of images. And of course, there was a riot essentially during the Mouth at the Palace, so they weren't going to allow that to happen again. So you got 4 players tossed. Again, that was Moussa Diabate, Miles Bridges, Jalen Duren, and Isaiah Stewart. There were situations where they got really close to the fans, and some of this altercation spilled into the crowd a little bit. Not deep, not like Ron Test, where he's in like the 13th row and they're just swinging on people. But those first few people in the first few rows, like, they were taking some contact because of how crazy this got. You don't see this very often. There actually was another fight in the NBA too. There were two. There were I forgot who the other team was, but there was we're at the dog days of the NBA season. We're past the second half of the season has begun already. We're approaching the All-Star break this week. I think teams are starting to kind of feel like they have opportunities. This was kind of as crazy as it sounds, this Pistons-Hornets game was kind of one of the marquee games of the night. Because the Pistons are the number one team in the Eastern Conference, and me and Perloff talking about how great a season they've had. And don't look out now, but the Hornets, who did lose this game, Pistons won 110-104. Slide that little score in there, because that was like not the story of the game. But Hornets come to this game and won 9 straight. They've been the hottest team in the NBA, and they look like a team that has a pathway to making the playoffs this year. Kind of surprisingly, Con Knipple has been a star for them coming as a rookie this year. So this was a big test for both teams. It was like, all right, can the Pistons stave off this hot Hornets team? And this was a measuring stick game for the Hornets. So what ends up happening is you're in the dog days of the NBA season. This is kind of a big marquee matchup, and people try to make statements. Diabate, this kind of started with him getting physical with Jalen Duren. I don't think that's typically a good idea because Jalen Duren was built like a brick house. And then these guys get into it, and then again, this became like a real scuffle. Once Jalen Duren mushed Diabate in the face, punches are getting thrown. And this was, again, a real fight. I'm very curious what the suspensions are for this. Because the thing I'm holding on to for this is why I thought this was interesting, why I want to talk about it, was because the NBA's been kind of good recently. I just want to enlarge this a little bit. The thing I want to talk about is the NBA's been basically a non-fighting sport. There haven't been brawls. There haven't been real scuffles. Like, even when there are scuffles, they get kind of squashed immediately. There hasn't really been a lot of fights. And we saw a fight earlier this year with Jose Alvarado punching Mark Williams. And that was a fight as well, I guess. But that got broken up kind of quickly. But still, there were punches thrown and connected. And I think Alvarado got like 2 games. I think Mark Williams maybe got a game or 2 games. Like, they didn't hammer these guys. I was a little surprised by that. I thought they were going to see at least a 5-6 game suspension for both of those guys, and we didn't see that. I wonder if the NBA's going to go soft, and I wonder if they don't mind this. It sounds crazy. It sounds crazy given where they've been. But the fact that like players would even try this years ago because they know I'm gonna be losing all these game checks for a fight that's probably not worth it. I'm not giving away that money. So Alvarado, again, there was a second fight that happened this night. It seems like players are more willing to, if there's an issue, to just start take swings and stuff. Isaiah Stewart just leaving the bench to get into a fight. Like, all the Knicks fans are like, they better hammer Isaiah Stewart because we essentially lost an opportunity to win a championship because of a stupid rule where if you leave the bench, everyone gets suspended. And the Knicks had a massive brawl where P.J. Brown flips Charlie Ward into the first row in a garbage time game where the Knicks were about to go up 3-1 in the series, and that led to a massive brawl, and you had Knicks players getting onto the court, most of them to break up the fight. Some guys didn't even really get involved in the fight. They just stepped onto the court. It didn't matter. Everybody got suspended because David Stern was adamant after a previous Knicks fight that involved Greg Anthony wearing a Hawaiian shirt in Phoenix as him and Kevin Johnson got into it, that they did not want players who aren't active or players from the bench making things worse with fights, so they never wanted you to leave the bench. That's why every time a fight happens, the first thing you'll see, every team has at least 1, maybe 2 assistant coaches who are assigned that when a fight happens, you immediately get up out of your seat and you block off the players on the bench to make sure they don't go on the court. It's an immediate rule, and it's the Amari Stoudemire rule. Like, you remember that, where Amari Stoudemire was acting like this. He wasn't on the court, but a scuffle that happened near the sideline, he kind of left the bench and went up the sideline, and that was enough to suspend him in a key series between the Spurs and the Suns. The Suns were up 3-2 in that series, and of course the Spurs were able to come back because a key game where the Suns didn't have Boris Diaw and Amari Stoudemire in the playoffs, Spurs were able to go on the road and win, and they win in 7 games, and that became a whole deal. But the NBA is stringent about if you leave the bench for a fight, you're going to get hurt with a big suspension and an important suspension if it's in the playoffs. They're not going to turn a blind eye to this kind of stuff. Isaiah Stewart left the bench and then was scuffling. Not like, oh, I left the bench to see what was going on to break up the fight. He was throwing punches. Him and Miles Bridges were throwing punches. So Knicks fans like, y'all better suspend that, bro. Because, like, I'm like, with the pain that Knicks fans still think about, like, my eye still twitches when I think about 97. I think about, me being a kid and think about this is like my earliest memories of Knicks basketball. And remembering this P.J. Brown flipping them over and the Knicks losing all these players to suspensions, and they had to play 2 games shorthanded because they essentially suspended the entire team almost. So they had to play all these games. They couldn't even put the suspensions all in one game because they would have forfeited. So they had to split the team where some guys didn't play Game 6 and some guys didn't play Game 7. By the way, it's the only series that Heat won in that rivalry. We talk about how that rivalry was, and it was a great rivalry. But the Knicks kicked Pat Riley's ass for most of those years, and the only time they won was because that P.J. Brown. I'm not going to say that, whatever. I was going to say something mean because I still hate P.J. Brown for it. Of course, shout out to P.J. Brown. Obviously, he was a great NBA veteran and a good pro. That moment, though, you can say, well, you're going to lose the Bulls anyway. But damn it, I do believe what Jeff Van Gundy says when he says that team had the best shot to beat the Bulls of any of the teams that had played the Knicks. He says because I had played the Bulls during that rivalry with the Knicks and Bulls. He said because that team still had a lot of the DNA of the Pat Riley 90s teams, where you still had Ewing, who was still playing at elite level. You had Stark still playing at a high level. You had Oakley still playing at a high level. This was like the end of them, but still the end of their prime. And then you had what was beginning of the Jeff Van Gundy era, where you then also had Allen Houston. And I think you also had Larry Johnson on that team. So this was like the perfect blend of both of those teams that went to the NBA Finals. We had some of the guys from 94 and some of the guys that would become the Finals team in 99. They were playing together and they had a great season. And they were playing great ball down the stretch. So Jeff Van Gundy swears that if there was any team that had a shot to beat the Bulls, their best shot was going to be that year. They were a 3 seed. The Heat had this great record and stuff, but this was the most talented team Knicks had in the 90s. And they were about to go up 3-1 against the Miami Heat with a 2 seed, and they got ruined because of that damn, P.J. Brown. So I'm hoping we'll see what happens. I don't want to take money out of guys' pockets, but I think there are going to be some big suspensions. But I'm curious how big they will be. If they're light, if you're talking about another 2 games for these guys, 3 games for these guys, NBA may say, hey, listen, people like more physicality. We know that with the playoffs and why they've kind of swallowed the whistle during the playoffs now. And Adam Silver has said that people want to see better defense and more physicality with the NBA. I didn't think that would advance into fighting. That seemed to be the line that the NBA definitely said we do not want. We do not like the imagery of these athletes getting out there and fighting. We think that doesn't do well with, the fan bases and the markets. It's something we talked about a bunch after the Malice in the Palace. I wonder if things have changed. I'll be curious what ends up happening with the suspension with these guys from the Pistons Hornets brawl. But if you get to watch it, man, go watch it. This was a fight. I see Bob Custer, maybe he went and checked it out. Wow, that was a righteous fight. It was. This was a real fight. This was not going to be your typical hold me back, as Jalen Rose says. Hold me back. Guys acting like they want to fight, but they just tell people to hold them back, right? Because they just want to look like they're not being punked. This was not that. This was a real brawl, and I liked it. I can't be like it's like sound like a Punisher in Daredevil season 2. Hell, he's like, I liked it. Hell, I loved it. That's how I feel watching the NBA guys scrap a little bit. It kind of reminds me of my childhood. But yeah, that's gonna be a good place to leave it. I wanted to make sure I got that in there because that fight was wild last night. Thank you for listening and watching 40 Days and 40 Nights with your boy EJ Stewart. We do 2 live streams per day. One at 8 a.m., one at 6 p.m. So we'll be back at 6 p.m. For night 22. Of course, if you enjoy this show, big favor. Always a big favor for every time we do this show. If you're enjoying the show, give us a like, give us a thumbs up. Really helps the show, really helps the channel, really helps me personally. So if you can, give a thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. Give me a like in the likes. If you enjoy the show, there's been an active comment section this morning. I love that the comment section has been there. We got Bob Cousins saying, I don't even like fights at hockey games in the NBA. Somebody could get killed out there. Yeah, I get it. I think that, and I do think there are some interesting conversations about why we allow fighting in hockey but not in the NBA. Maybe one could argue that the fact that there's like a barrier literally between the fans and the players on the court or ice maybe make it a little different, where you don't have fan danger, so to speak. But I know it's not great for any sport. I'm not saying I want this to be fight night every night, but it was kind of nice to see guys get into it a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But likes, getting in the comment section, those things help the channel especially. So if you can give me a like, we really appreciate it. If you can comment in the comment section, even if you don't have a take, you want to say, hey, EJ, just great job, or hey, shout out to Perloff, whatever you want to do, those comments help. Even after the video is posted, you can get in the comment section and talk about how much you love the show. That helps a ton. Also, if you listen to the podcast, you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcasts. Another favor, if you can give a review, if you can give us 5 stars, and write a review about how much you're loving the show and how much you're enjoying the content. That also helps us a ton. You can get these podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn. Just search New Generation Podcast Network. And that's going to do it for day 22 of 40 Days and 40 Nights. I want to give the biggest thanks to my guy, Andrew Perloff, who came in, shut it down, did a phenomenal job as he always does. Of course, we'll be back later for night 22 at 6 p.m. So make sure you're there for that. I told you Keith McPherson's coming on tomorrow, so be ready for tomorrow morning with Keith McPherson. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. Follow me on Instagram, ActionEJ on Instagram and TikTok as well, ActionEJ. And again, make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media on YouTube. I'm EJ Stewart. Thanks for checking me out. I'll see you guys a little bit later. I'm out.